Chapter 165. Just when Yen Zheka suspected that all the sounds around her had disappeared, her phone vibrated again and a new message popped up. I told her that you were annoyed by Xie Tiang's pestering, so you grabbed a male classmate who came to visit me as a shield. You rehearse your lines yourself. Phew. Yen Zheka heaved a sigh of relief and relaxed. She could hear the rapid beating of her heart and feel the blood gushing to her face. Brother, can't you finish it in one breath? You scared me to death. She vented her emotions with words. Lin Kei quickly replied, I felt the same when I received your mother's call. So you want me to experience it too? Yen Zheka didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She only felt that her cousin's dry humor was not something normal people could bear. She used 6 ellipses to express her feelings. Lin Kei said to himself, if your mother takes this matter seriously, she may fly directly to see you. You have to pay attention to the same words as the people around you. Also, don't get close to Lu Cheng in places that are easily discovered. It's really possible. Yen Zheka thought of her mother's character and style and almost gasped. Brother, you seem to be very experienced. You can even think of this. Lin Kei only replied to her with 3 words, I'm smart. Yen Zheka's mouth twitched and quickly typed, but I'm not stupid either. Every time I score in the IQ test, I score higher than you. Love makes people stupid. Lin Kei said concisely and then put the phone in his pocket. Yen Zheka calmed down and thought of countermeasures in her mind. She was a little scared, a little relieved and a little depressed. After a while, Lu Cheng recovered and opened his eyes. He got up and practiced the routine. He moved his muscles and fascia little by little, so that they were gradually in the best condition. Looking at her boyfriend's relaxed movements, Yen Zheka suddenly felt a little melancholy. Should I tell this to Cheng? The most important thing for 2 people to be together is to be honest and communicate. It doesn't seem good to hide it from him. But if I tell him, he will definitely blame himself and think that I didn't do well enough. I suggested to go to Tian Tong Taoist Temple for a date. And this will aggravate the feeling of an underground relationship. He will probably feel uncomfortable in his heart. While Lu Cheng was hesitating and struggling, he finished his warm-up. He turned around and asked in a low voice, Ku, what are you thinking about? Yen Zheka suppressed all her emotions and said with a faint smile, thinking of your bad things. What bad things have I done? I'm such an honest kid. Lu Cheng smiled and sat beside the girl. Does becoming more and more thick-skinned count? Yen Zheka chuckled. After talking to Cheng, my mood seemed to improve. Moreover, I had never lied to my parents before, but the first thing I thought about was lying. Am I falling deeper and deeper? Lu Cheng and Yen Zheka chatted for a while before they realized that Lin Kei had arrived. When they nodded to greet him, he suddenly felt that his brother-in-law seemed a little different from before. In the past, Lin Kei was silent, reserved, and cold. But now, he had a sense of quiet. Quiet, calm, and tranquil. Had he touched the edge of the dance stage? Lu Cheng guessed thoughtfully. He was happy for his brother-in-law and wanted to work harder. He couldn't let him widen the gap between them. As a martial artist, how could he not have the heart to compete for supremacy? While he was thinking, Geezer Sure stood up and clapped his hands. Okay, let's go. Let's go and wait for our opponent. Lu Cheng, Yen Zheka, Sun Jian, and the others looked at each other and put their hands together. Then they shouted in unison, Victory! When they stepped out of the locker room, a deafening shout suddenly erupted in their ears. Songqing University. The superimposition of 2,000 to 3,000 voices in the stadium created a storm that reverberated in the stadium. Lu Cheng's body trembled with excitement. Then, he heard a new shout. Lu Cheng! Lu Cheng! They all know my name? Lu Cheng and Yen Zheka looked at each other and couldn't help but feel excited. Then a new wave of shouts came. Come on, Lu Cheng! The students who crowded into the martial arts stadium to watch the fight, as long as they were not the kind who were invited by others, would more or less check the relevant information in advance. From the results of several rounds of preliminaries, they unexpectedly found that the martial arts club had 1 more main force, 1 more pillar, and 1 more brilliant unranked master. At this time, they couldn't help but shout. This year, the martial arts club had a chance. Whether it was the preliminaries or the university martial arts competition in the second half of the year. Lu Cheng's scalp tingled when he heard the shouts. He felt so good that he couldn't wait to rush to the arena and fight 300 rounds with Peng Chengguang. A gentleman would die for his bosom friend. He waved his hand reservedly, and got more shouts and warm welcome in return. Feeling a little tipsy, he, Yan Zheka, and the others sat in the seats of the home team and heard Geezer Sure say, "The order of the Mingwei Martial Arts Club is still the same. Gao Rao is the first, Zhang Ying is the second, and Peng Chengguang is the third." Gao Rao was an amateur first pin fighter, and Zhang Ying was an amateur second pin fighter. Their boxing skills were not bad, but because Jiuyang boxing was very ordinary, they didn't have any trump cards or short burst abilities. Overall, they could be called mediocre. Seeing the referee waving to them, Sun Jian stood up and smiled to Lu Cheng and the others. "Today, we don't have to worry about not being able to fight all the time." After he finished speaking, he raised his fist and gave himself a pep talk before walking towards the ring. At this time, because of the list on the big screen, new words echoed in the martial arts stadium. "Sun Jian. Come on." Sun Jian's blood was boiling and he seemed to be secreting adrenaline. Instinctively, he wanted to recall the feeling of challenging the great Demon King in the previous competition and find his best condition. However, some things would only erupt under certain circumstances. Now that he wanted to try again, time had passed, and it would be difficult to recreate it again. However, he was more barbaric and unreasonable than before. His pace was getting faster and faster, and he had already climbed the stone steps. On the other side, Gao Rao left his seat and walked to the arena along the path of brilliance. When he was about to reach the stone steps, he couldn't help but look back at his senior brother who was sitting calmly. "This time, I won't be a burden anymore." He secretly clenched his fist and gritted his teeth. In the first 3 rounds, he lost all 3. Even when he fought against the Dream Squad, he lost to Feng Xiaoquan. He was full of self-blame and didn't want to be a burden to his senior brother again. He wanted to have an outbreak. On the arena, Sun Jian and Gao Rao stood opposite each other. The referee said with a serious face, "4th round of preliminaries, Songqing University Martial Arts Club versus Mingwei Martial Arts Club. First round, Sun Jian versus Gao Rao. 3 minutes of conversation time starts." Gao Rao closed his eyes and adjusted his mood and body. He planned to turn a deaf ear to the enemy's words. Sun Jian belonged to the gentle type, and his family education was very strict. He was probably the last few in the martial arts club when it came to swearing. At this time, when he saw that his opponent didn't want to talk to him, he was happy to save his mind and energy. He seized the last moment to repeatedly think about how to attack. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. Time passed quickly. The referee raised his right hand and waved it down. "Start." As soon as he heard the referee, Sun Jian, who was already prepared, bulged his thigh muscles and jumped down. He used the force to pounce forward like a nimble leopard pouncing on its prey. As soon as he got close, he shook his shoulder and sent out his right arm. He opened his 5 fingers and grabbed Gao Rao like a bird of prey. Flower-splitting willow hand. Gao Rao was cautious and didn't give his opponent a chance to grab him. He leaned back on his left side, clenched his right hand into a fist, and punched out horizontally to block the attack. But just as he was about to touch the flower-splitting willow hand, Sun Jian's left fist seemed to have been ready for a long time. His muscles bulged and shot out like a bolt of lightning, leaping toward his abdomen like a viper. The right hand grabbing was a feint, while the left fist was a real punch. This was the attack that Sun Jian had been planning for several days. Gao Rao's posture was awkward. He could only swing his left arm back and punch down to block in a hurry. Bang! He didn't use enough strength to block and was bounced back by Sun Jian's fist. If he hadn't shrunk his abdomen in time, he would have been in a more embarrassing situation. Sun Jian took advantage of this rebounding force, twitched his thigh and kicked out his right foot, launching the brutal blizzard of the 24 blizzard strikes. Seeing this scene, Peng Chengguang sighed and said, "Little Rao's burden is too heavy. He wants to win too much and is afraid of losing." Facing the enemy's attack, he was too conservative and ended up in a passive position. Zhang Ying, Chu Yu, and Lu Wei were stunned. They understood that eldest senior brother was not only talking about Gao Rao, but also reminding them. Chapter 166. Gao Rao blocked one blow after another in the arena. He felt that the more he blocked, the harder it was for him, while the more he fought, the fiercer his opponent became. It wasn't that he hadn't watched the competition videos of the Songqing University Martial Arts Club. It wasn't that he didn't know how terrifying his opponent's 24 blizzard strikes was. It wasn't that he didn't prepare for it and didn't consider how to prevent his opponent from using his strength. It was just that he was in a hurry to defend himself. He didn't have the ability to use short bursts of strength. But now, Sun Jian had already started to gain momentum. Each punch was heavier than the previous one, and each kick was fiercer than the previous one. Gao Rao was on the verge of collapsing, and his strength was at a disadvantage. He could only focus on defense, and there was no chance for him to use short bursts of strength. If the Nine-Yong Fist was a better martial art and had a burst of power similar to the modern cannon fist or an unreasonable move like the bear form, Gao Rao would have been able to use it to meet force with force and forcefully interrupt his opponent's violent blizzard suppression. Unfortunately, the biggest characteristic of the Nine-Yong Fist was that it did not have any special characteristics. It had all kinds of hammering techniques, single whips, cannon fists, and leg techniques, but lacked the finishing touch. Can I only endure until his stamina can't keep up? But I'm afraid I can't hold on much longer. Facing Sun Jian's undersea blast and half-step crushing punch, Gao Rao was a little anxious. He couldn't wait to get out of the current situation. If he lost again, how could he face his eldest senior brother? To see his eldest senior brother who refused to join other forces in order to protect the name of the martial arts club. To see his eldest senior brother who didn't want to become a disciple of a dance stage master. To see his eldest senior brother who protected him and others and never complained. I want to help him even in my dreams. I can't be a burden anymore. Gao Rao felt a strong desire to fight burning in his heart and the urge to break out of the current situation. He couldn't hold it in anymore. He exerted strength in his back, bulged his thighs, and suddenly leaned his feet. As the force rebounded, he straightened his knees, tightened his thighs, sprung his spine, and rotated his waist and back, stirring all the muscles in his body, turning his right arm into a whistling steel whip. With a snap, he lashed out fiercely and firmly. This was perhaps the most powerful attack he could unleash. Sun Jian didn't show mercy. He sprung his back, and his body swung forward. Mixed with the borrowed strength, he blasted out a mountain blast punch. Bang! With a dull explosion, Gao Rao, whose strength was already at a disadvantage, swayed his body and barely managed to maintain his center of gravity. At this time, he saw Sun Jian take half a step back, as if he was about to stumble and fall. Could it be that he only had an empty frame and his lower body was unstable? Gao Rao was overjoyed. Just as he was about to stabilize his center of gravity and switch from defense to offense, Sun Jian's stomp made him seem like a spring or a stray bullet. After a quick collision with the ground, he suddenly rebounded forward. His speed was so fast that Gao Rao only had time to hurriedly raise his arms. Catapult technique. Sun Jian had just closed in on Gao Rao's body when he opened his right hand. His 5 fingers were like sharp teeth and fierce claws as he ruthlessly grabbed the enemy's arm. Just as Gao Rao was about to shake off his arm, Sun Jian stepped on the ground again and leaped forward. He flashed past Gao Rao's stance and appeared behind him. Then, he turned around and grabbed both of Gao Rao's arms. With a twist, a lift, and a scissor, Sun Jian completed the capture. At the same time, he raised his right foot and kicked the bend of Gao Rao's knee. Gao Rao's attempt to turn the tables was abruptly stopped. He could no longer stand steadily and fell on one knee. Until now, Gao Rao suddenly came to his senses and realized that he had fallen into Sun Jian's trap. The referee beside him raised his right hand and loudly announced the result. First round, Sun Jian wins. Gao Rao's mind buzzed. His heart was full of annoyance and confusion. Lost? I lost again? Did I drag senior brother down again? When Sun Jian let go of his hand, he stood up shakily and walked out of the arena in a daze. Sure enough, this was not a cartoon. You couldn't win just because you had the reason and belief to win. You couldn't defeat a strong enemy just by recalling the past and shouting in your heart. Sun Jian was not interested in the enemy's thoughts or emotions. After the expected trap succeeded, he was overflowing with joy and satisfaction. The taste of victory was indeed wonderful, so was the hot blood of every punch. He turned around and waved his fist at the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club and the audience in the stands. Lu Cheng and the others smiled and applauded. The audience responded with warm cheers. Sun Jian. In the warm atmosphere, Gao Rao walked back to the guest team's seat. He almost didn't dare to raise his head and face senior brother, junior brothers, and junior sisters. The front part was too tight, and the back part was too rushed. Peng Chengguang was neither disappointed nor angry. He simply commented, "Go back and think about it carefully. After you digest and absorb the combat experience of this preliminaries, you have a great chance to go further." Hearing eldest senior brother's consolation and encouragement, and feeling how indifferent he was about his failure, Gao Rao felt even more upset. He wished that eldest senior brother could scold him and give him a few slaps. Only then would he feel better, and the guilt and self-blame in his heart would dissipate a little. "Senior brother, I'm not a kid anymore." He really wanted to shout back like this. Peng Chengguang looked at Zhang Ying, who was standing beside him, and whispered, "Take the initiative. Don't let him mess up your rhythm. Don't let him get the chance to close in on you. Also, stay calm and don't rush. He's a smart opponent and is good at setting traps." Zhang Ying nodded and remembered senior brother's words. She turned around and walked to the arena, her eyes fixed on Sun Jian. Well, in conclusion, this is a refined scum. Her hair was tied up and her ponytail was swinging. With her baby face, people would believe that she was still in high school. After standing in front of Sun Jian, she took a deep breath and told herself to calm down. Second round start. The referee didn't give them time to adjust. Gao Rao was a fighter of amateur first pin. It seemed easy for Sun Jian to defeat him, but in fact, it wasn't easy. If he hadn't made his opponent fall into a passive position at the beginning and used 24 blizzard strikes, the winner would have been uncertain. After going through such a fierce battle, and the fact that 24 blizzard strikes was a particularly exhausting fighting style, one could imagine Sun Jian's condition. He only had one thought at this time, and that was to force his opponent to meet force with force and create an opportunity for Li Mao behind him. Bang! After the start sound, he stepped forward. His right arm shook and turned into a long spear. With the momentum of exploding the air, he stabbed at Zhang Ying. Zhang Ying had been prepared. Her right foot slipped and dodged to the side, trying to fight steadily. As soon as she came to the side of her opponent, she tightened her thigh muscles and drove her knee to pull out a whip kick that tore the wind. Sun Jian took a deep breath, twisted his waist and back, tightened his trousers, and fiercely kicked out his left leg from the side. Bang! After the two collided, Zhang Ying took advantage of the rebound force and tiptoed to change her position again. She started to attack again and controlled the rhythm of the game. Bang bang bang! Bang bang bang! The two kept fighting and separating. Zhang Ying didn't give Sun Jian a chance to use 24 blizzard strikes and close combat. She grasped the trick of moving away as soon as she touched him. After a series of collisions, she found another opportunity. She blocked and pulled with her left hand and punched with her right fist. Bang! Sun Jian's right hand turned into a hammer and went straight down to block this punch. His body was shaking. Was he at his limit? Was his strength reduced to this extent? Zhang Ying was shocked and was about to take advantage of the situation to attack fiercely. However, the words of eldest senior brother suddenly echoed in her mind. "Calm down, don't rush." Zhang Ying calmed down, twisted her waist and back slightly, and stepped to the side of Sun Jian again. Then she saw that he took advantage of the rebound force and rushed forward fiercely, bursting out the power that was comparable to his heyday. Phew, he is really treacherous. I was almost fooled. Zhang Ying was angry. She caught up with him in a few steps, raised her right hand, lowered her waist, and was about to take the opportunity to cut down with her fist. At this time, Sun Jian exerted strength on his feet and jumped out of the ring. Jumped out of the ring. Jumped out of the ring. Zhang Ying stared blankly at Sun Jian below the stage. She wondered if he had become muddle-headed. After Sun Jian stood firmly, he quickly tidied his hair and praised himself for being smart. When the last burst of power didn't hit the enemy, he was at his limit. As long as the opponent hit him one or two more times, he would definitely be defeated. Since he was going to be defeated anyway, why would he stupidly let the opponent hit him or fall to the ground and make himself look so embarrassed? In front of so many people, he had to keep his composure. Sun Jian brushed his hair and walked back to his seat with light footsteps. Seeing this, Li Mao stood up suddenly and left his seat. Because his face was not as bad as before, and his body was not as tense as before, Lu Cheng and the others didn't say anything to avoid the opposite effect. Slowly, she will definitely lose. When he was about to meet Li Mao, Sun Jian clenched his fist and said with a smile, This time, Li Mao felt a little nervous, but he didn't lose the ability to think. He nodded and reached out his right fist to bump with Sun Jian's. As he walked up the stone steps, he gently exhaled and adjusted his slightly tense body. Just like what Chang and the others said, when he removed the burden, his nervousness would gradually decrease with the number of fights. It was not a terminal illness that couldn't be overcome. My body is still a little stiff. If I respond passively later, it will be easy to cause problems. So, it's better to take the initiative and take the initiative. After I get through the difficulties at the beginning, I can really enter the competition state. Li Mao silently said, "Take the initiative," and came to the opposite of Zhang Ying. Compared to before, he was quite satisfied with his current state. At least his mind was not close to blank. Zhang Ying seized the time to adjust her breath and recover her strength. She had just calmed down and played a guerrilla fight, which prolonged the competition time and consumed a lot of energy. However, after winning the first round, the burden in her heart was reduced a lot, and she could calmly analyze the situation of her opponent. This martial artist called Li Mao was very nervous. Although his symptoms were definitely not as serious after his victory over Feng Xiaoquan last week, I still had a chance to take advantage of it. I will take the initiative to attack and take advantage of his confusion at the beginning. The third round start. The referee waved his arm. As soon as he finished his words, Li Mao gathered his strength and instinctively stepped forward. Zhang Ying's knee bounced and fiercely jumped forward. The two figures were very close in an instant, which made the audience exclaim. At this distance, with this kind of inertia, it was already too late for anyone to dodge or retreat. Their pupils contracted at the same time. In an instant, relying on the instinct of a fighter, they clenched their teeth, twisted their backs, and punched at the same time. When two rivals meet on a narrow road, the brave wins. Chapter 167. Both Li Mao and Zhang Ying summoned their courage without any hesitation. They both stomped on the ground, twisted their waist and swung their arms, and threw out the same blast punch. Bang! When the two fists collided, it was as if they were frozen in mid-air. Immediately after, Li Mao's body swayed backward, while Zhang Ying took half a step back. Only then did she manage to stabilize her body. Both of them were of amateur second pin. As a woman, she was at a disadvantage in terms of strength after a fierce fight. Li Mao's mind was still a little tight, so he didn't have time to think. Following his fighting instinct, he swayed his waist, bulged his legs, and kicked out his left leg like a soft whip. Bam! His left leg straightened quickly, exploding the air. Zhang Ying didn't have time to dodge. She gritted her teeth, tightened her feet, and kicked back. Bang! The two legs hit each other, swayed, and took a step back. Li Mao's mind was full of the idea of attacking first. Without any adjustment, he pounced forward again, bulged his muscles, swung his right arm, and hammered like a war drum. Again! Zhang Ying's eyes narrowed, and she regretted her previous decision. But now she had no better choice but to fight hard. She stomped on the ground with her right foot, pulled back her arm, clenched her fist, and shook the wind like a cannonball. Bang! Another muffled sound. Zhang Ying couldn't withstand her opponent's strength. Her right arm was swung away, and her upper body fell back, losing her center of gravity. Li Mao, on the other hand, only swayed and was about to attack again. In a flash, Zhang Ying suddenly thought of the competition video she studied a few days ago, and a picture flashed in her mind. She could try this. Anyway, it couldn't be worse. She clenched her teeth and gave up trying to stabilize her center of gravity and force in a hurry. She leaned forward and bent her waist, but her right leg suddenly bounced up, turned into a straight whip, and unexpectedly whipped Li Mao. Iron Bridge. Dragon turning over. This was a move Zhang Ying learned from watching Lu Cheng's fighting video. Before reaching the high-ranked Dan stage, there wouldn't be any complicated feints or changes in the moves. This was because the speed and control ability of low-ranked martial artists couldn't accomplish these at all. It would only make the moves look fancy and impractical, and it would only be for show. Therefore, the core of the martial arts in these few stages was visualization, force exertion techniques, and routines to train different muscles. It was something that couldn't be learned from watching videos or watching fights. Of course, some moves and techniques couldn't be hidden from others. After watching a few replays, one would be able to figure it out. For example, The trick to take a step back when colliding with the opponent and Lu Cheng's Iron Bridge Dragon Flip. In terms of movement, this move was simple and clear. The difficult part was whether one had the ability to control their own center of gravity. Being able to understand it did not mean that one could learn it. Of course, Zhang Ying wasn't as good as Lu Cheng in this aspect, but she didn't expect to be able to stabilize her center of gravity and borrow the force to rise again. She was purely relying on the advantage of a girl's flexibility to seek chaos in defeat and obstruct the enemy. Li Mao did not expect that the enemy would respond in this way. His left hand lashed out like a whip, taking advantage of the situation to launch an attack. However, he saw the black martial arts shoes coming straight at his chin. The air was torn apart, and the wind was whistling. Li Mao couldn't take back his stance and his right fist couldn't catch up to block. Li Mao's heart tightened. He didn't have time to think. He shrunk his head, curled his body, and lay down to the side. Lazy donkey roll. Zhang Ying's kick missed and she lost her balance. She fell to the ground and rolled twice. At the same time, both of them jumped up like a carp and stood up again. Only then did the students recover from their initial exclamations. They applauded and cheered for the courage and determination displayed by the two in the previous collision. After this, Li Mao was frightened and scared. His nervousness completely disappeared and he entered the competition state. He calmed down and faced Zhang Ying's attack calmly. Zhang Ying also didn't have the intention to attack first. She used her footwork and walked around the opponent to take the initiative to attack and let the competition return to the rhythm she was familiar with. Just as she came to the side, she clenched her fist and chopped with great momentum. Li Mao didn't want to win, but he didn't want to make any mistakes. He raised his right arm to block first and then swung it out to avoid the next move. Going to the back, Zhang Ying twitched her thigh and kicked the enemy's knee with the tip of her foot. Li Mao twisted his waist and turned around, sweeping his leg. Similar scenes kept happening. The sound of the collision and the crisp sound of the air exploding echoed from time to time. One of them attacked beautifully, the other defended stably. It was difficult to determine the winner in a short time. During this process, Li Mao didn't only know how to defend. He himself was not a heavy and inflexible style. Once he seized the opportunity, he would take a few steps forward and counterattack to relieve the pressure of the passive defense. As time passed, he suddenly heard Zhang Ying's breathing become heavier and her flexible footwork seemed to be a little slower. Did her physical strength drop to the level of qualitative change? Li Mao's heart moved, but he didn't immediately counterattack because he was too anxious in the last round. As soon as he noticed that Feng Xiaoquan was close to his limit, he attacked fiercely. As a result, he was almost defeated by the opponent's tiger and crane attack. The lesson was not far away. Li Mao calmed down and slowly changed the situation of attack and defense. After forcing Zhang Ying back with one move, he took a step forward, swung his right arm, and waved it down like holding a steel whip. Crack! Zhang Ying's footwork was not messed up. Her right arm crossed in front of her chest and hammered in the opposite direction to block the whip. However, when the two of them collided, Li Mao could clearly feel her weakness. Hence, he did not show her any mercy. He swung his arms, making them look like two steel whips. As his body leaned forward, he alternated between swinging them down crazily. The slapping sounds were endless. Zhang Ying gritted her teeth, held her breath, and blocked a few times. Finally, she couldn't resist and was pulled away from her stance. She was about to be hit in the body. At this time, the referee next to him stretched out his hand and put it on Li Mao's shoulder. With a shake and a press, he dispersed his strength. The third round, Li Mao wins. With the referee's announcement, the audience in the stands responded with warm applause. They cheered for Li Mao, and also showed respect to a girl who could fight to this extent. At the same time, some students whispered to each other, discussing whether Li Mao's last few moves were the legendary tortoise fist. But Li Mao didn't care about this. Even if his posture was ugly, it was good enough to win the game. This is the second victory I've won on behalf of Songqing University Martial Arts Club. He gasped and thought in ecstasy. Suddenly, an idea came to his mind. Martial arts is so interesting. Zhang Ying heaved a sigh of relief and looked a little disappointed. She still wanted to defeat Li Mao so that her senior brother could face Lu Cheng in his most complete state. As for exhausting Lu Cheng, she had already given up the idea after witnessing Lu Cheng's abnormal stamina in 3 consecutive battles. Forget it. With senior brother's strength, Defeating Li Mao is just a piece of cake. It won't affect his duel with Lu Cheng. With a change of mind, she walked down the ring in a good mood and went to meet her eldest senior brother. You fought very well. Peng Chengguang was not stingy with his praise. Hearing this, Zhang Ying was first overjoyed, then inexplicably touched. Her eyes reddened, and she almost shed tears. The word she had prepared turned into 3 words in a low voice: eldest senior brother. Senior brother, I'm so happy to be able to help you. Peng Chengguang smiled and said confidently without showing off, go back. Leave the rest to me. After giving each other a high five, he walked along the road, stepped on the stone steps, and stepped into the arena. Looking at the famous 9th pin master, Li Mao suddenly felt a little nervous, not because of nervousness, but because it was the first time he faced a professional fighter. Don't panic. I just want to exhaust him a few moves. What's there to be afraid of? Li Mao calmed down and stared at Peng Chengguang in his posture. This 9th pin master is much more mature than his actual age. The audience cheered for Li Mao again. At the same time, they didn't expect Li Mao to be invincible after a fierce battle. They only thought that with the gap of 2 pins, he should be able to exhaust some of Lu Cheng's strength and create an advantage for Lu Cheng. Li Mao! Li Mao! As the shouts echoed, the referee waved his right hand. The 4th round, start! Li Mao didn't dare to fight with a professional 9th pin master. He moved forward with the snake steps and slid to the side of Peng Chengguang. He clenched his fist and hit his opponent with chopping force. Peng Chengguang stood steadily and didn't rush to attack. At this time, his right foot suddenly stepped toward Li Mao from the side. He raised his right arm and blocked Li Mao's chopping force easily. Because of this clever step, his body was in front of his opponent. At this time, all the muscles on Peng Chengguang's back seemed to be connected, shaking like a big snake. He raised his right arm and followed it up with an elbow strike. Bang! Li Mao hurriedly used his left palm to block, but immediately felt a majestic force coming towards him. Peng Chengguang had forcefully slammed his palm into his chest. He felt stuffy and lost his center of gravity, falling backward. Peng Chengguang took advantage of the momentum from the elbow strike and quickly shot out his forearm to grab Li Mao's collar like a gust of wind. Using his skillful strength, he helped Li Mao regain his balance. Then, he elegantly retracted his hand and looked at Li Mao with a smile. If he didn't grab my collar but pinched my throat, I would be dead. Li Mao stood there in a daze. The referee announced the result. The 4th round, Peng Chengguang wins. The shouts and cheers echoing in the martial arts arena stopped abruptly, leaving only a few echoes. The audience didn't expect Li Mao to lose so quickly and so easily. He looked like he couldn't fight back at all. Isn't this professional 9th pin too strong? Lu Cheng suddenly stood up and looked at the ring. His blood was boiling and his fighting spirit was surging. This is the kind of opponent I look forward to. If you only know how to bully the weak, then what's the point of learning martial arts? Peng Chengguang also turned around and looked at Lu Cheng. He put on a posture and made an inviting gesture. When the 4 eyes met, sparks and electric currents seemed to be ignited in the air. The 4 fighters of the Azure Dragon squad suddenly held their breath as if they felt the turbulent waves between Lu Cheng and Peng Chengguang. Lin Kei took a deep breath and showed a rare look of regret. He only regretted that his injury hadn't healed yet. Chapter 168. Defeating a spent Li Mao with one move was not scary. Any professional 9th pin fighter in his prime could do that. What was scary about Peng Chengguang was that he seemed to be able to lift a heavy weight with ease and still had plenty of energy left. This made people feel intimidated. As for the spectators in the stands, most of them were just here to watch the show. They were not professional enough, so they were more shocked by the comparison between the two and the instant kill. Li Mao had just fought with Zhang Ying as if Mars had collided with Earth, and he had fiercely won the battle, but in the blink of an eye, he was defeated by someone in one move. If it were anyone who did not understand the difference between the lower ranks, they would inevitably be shocked and lose their voice, unable to recover for a while. In the rare silence of today's competition, Lu Cheng and Yan Zheka looked at each other, high-fived, and walked toward the arena. During this process, he saw Li Mao come back in a daze, as if he was shocked. He heard the scattered cheers around him, which revealed some indescribable depression. In such an environment, Lu Cheng vaguely felt that Peng Chengguang had the upper hand. He hadn't shown his real strength yet, hadn't won a victory that was enough to silence the audience. How could he have controlled the situation? In the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Sun Jian and others also smelled the strangeness in the air and felt the atmosphere that shouldn't be there. Yen Zheka, who was wearing a white martial arts suit with black edges, suddenly stood up, put her hands around her mouth, and shouted softly but loudly, "Come on, Lu Cheng!" The voice broke the silence. Yen Zheka suddenly sobered up and sat down in a graceful posture. She ignored the gazes of the onlookers and acted as if she had done nothing. "Come on, Lu Cheng." The familiar voice engraved in his mind warmed Lu Cheng's heart. He looked back with a smile, only to see Yen Zheka sitting in the same seat, looking at him innocently with her big black and white eyes. She smiled and clenched her fist, waving it delicately, as if to say, "I'm quiet, I'm well behaved. That crazy woman just now is not me." While Lu Cheng couldn't help but laugh, the spectators on both sides of the stands were awakened. Shouts of, "Come on, Lu Cheng!" followed one after another. At first, it was noisy and disorderly, but then it gradually became orderly and finally turned into shouts that echoed around the martial arts arena. "Come on, Lu Cheng!" At this moment, Lu Cheng felt like he was a man with his own background. Surrounded and cheered by the crowd, he walked towards the ring step by step. When he passed by Li Mao, he nodded slightly, clenched his fist and extended it. "You played very well." Li Mao clenched his fists and bumped them together. "I believe you can win." The two of them brushed past each other. Lu Cheng climbed up the stone steps and calmly walked forward under Peng Chengguang's gaze. Amidst the waves of cheers, each louder than the last, he stood in front of the enemy. "This is my territory, and I call the shots." The referee did not give the two commanders a chance to speak. He raised his right hand and said, "The final round begins." As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Cheng, who had already adjusted his body condition, swayed his center of gravity, drew an arc in the air and pounced on his opponent without warning. At the same time, Peng Chengguang's thigh muscles swelled and squirmed as if they had a life of their own. With a spring and a shake, he changed from a standstill to a high speed. He rushed towards Lu Cheng's original position, as if he wanted to catch his opponent off guard and prevent him from using the skill of mercurial balance. With a dash and a flash, Lu Cheng came to Peng Chengguang's side. He bent his body slightly, stepped on the ground, and suddenly launched a seabed cannon straight at his opponent's waist. This was similar to his previous performance when he used mercurial balance to fight strong opponents, but in essence, it was completely different. This was not seabed cannon, but seabed quake. And Lu Cheng had already quietly lowered his center of gravity, intending to use all his strength in this attack. Rumble. His mind was filled with thunderclouds, the dark sound reverberated, and the fascia and muscles of his arms and shoulders were tight. Peng Chengguang had just steadied himself when he was faced with such a blow. He had no time to do a side kick, so he had to explode the strength in his shoulders, waved his right arm, and raised his fist like a hammer. Bang! As soon as the two collided, Lu Cheng's compressed strength exploded, like detonating a cannonball. The first strike of Thunder Roar Zen. Boom! Peng Chengguang's mind suddenly buzzed, and he felt like he had hit a landmine. The violent vibration started from his right fist and quickly spread to his whole body, shaking his skin, muscles, fascia, and bones, rolling his qi and blood, and affecting his internal organs. Tremor punch? Lu Cheng has mastered tremor punch? He felt so uncomfortable that he wanted to vomit, and even his strength seemed to become difficult. But he knew that victory was at hand, so he quickly gathered his spirit, contracted his body slightly, and then immediately opened it, and his feet fiercely touched the ground. Crack! With his feet as the round point, thin crisscrossing cracks appeared on the ground, forming a spider web. And with this rebound, the muscles of Peng Chengguang's calves, thighs, back, abdomen, chest, arms, and shoulders suddenly came to life, turning into ferocious flood dragons, propping up his clothes and exploding them. Following that, he twisted his waist and back, twisting this force into one and sending out a fierce swing force. Lu Cheng had succeeded in his punch and was about to win the game, but suddenly he felt that Peng Chengguang in front of him had turned into an erupting volcano, and his whole body was gushing with terrible strength. Then he was involuntarily thrown out and lost his balance. What a terrifying outburst! Lu Cheng's heart tightened as he quickly adjusted his muscles. When the first step landed, he had basically regained his balance. However, he didn't stop there. Instead, he took 2 more steps, accumulating strength with each step. He was waiting for Peng Chengguang's pursuit so that he could give him a counterattack. After 2 steps, Lu Cheng had turned around and found that Peng Chengguang was still standing there, exhaling a long breath, and didn't take the opportunity to attack. He suddenly realized that Peng Chengguang didn't feel good under his Thunder Roar Zen, and maybe he had just stabilized his qi and blood. He didn't chase, not because he didn't want to, but because he couldn't. Their eyes met again and they shouted at the same time. Good! They cheered for their own performance, and also for the enemy's strength. In the stands, Kai Zongming, Qiu Zhigao, Zhao Chong and other roommates had already arrived, as Lu Cheng's friends and relatives. They were watching the big screen attentively, and they gasped because of the collision just now. In the previous attack, Lu Cheng's Thunder Roar Zen was aimed directly at the enemy, and its power was not shown at all. It was far less terrifying than Peng Chengguang's throwing of his opponent by stepping on the green bricks, wriggling his muscles, and throwing his opponent, which made them frightened for a moment. Talker, Cheng's opponent seems to be very strong, Zhang Jingye said with a toothache. Kai Zongming was also worried, but he looked calm on the surface. No matter how strong he is, can he be stronger than an 8th pin in the dance stage? But last time it was Lin Kei who attacked first. Qiu Zhigao subconsciously retorted. Kai Zongming laughed and said, but Peng Chengguang is not in the dance stage. He just stepped on a few green stones, right? Cheng can do the same. Besides, it's normal to lose a few challenge tournaments. Who hasn't lost in the Dragon King and Warrior Sage? There are so many modern competitions, who can guarantee that he will only meet an enemy who is only a little stronger than himself? Zhao Chong didn't know much about martial arts, so when he heard Talker's words, he was relieved. He muttered to himself that it was also possible to race, and then looked at the arena again. Lu Cheng and Peng Chengguang were fighting again. This time, he shook his center of gravity and flashed to the left side of his opponent. He planned to make a feint attack to trick his opponent into attacking first, while he flashed to the back of his opponent in advance and took the opportunity to attack with Thunder Roar Zen. He shook his right arm as if he was going to attack, but his center of gravity swayed and he flashed to the back of Peng Chengguang like a ghost. However, during this process, Peng Chengguang didn't move at all, as if he had seen through his trick. Lu Qing didn't dare to stay. He slid his feet and shifted his center of gravity, flashing to the right side of his opponent again. According to the video of the competition, Peng Chengguang did have a little taste of absolute reaction, and he was better than Lu Cheng in this aspect. It seems that I can't find a chance to attack his Thunder Roar Zen by combining feint attacks and mercurial center of gravity. Lu Cheng figured out the key while he was moving. Thinking of this, he suddenly had an idea and did a reverse thinking. Peng Chengguang didn't have a complete, absolute reaction. If he could make it a little bit more realistic, it might have a miraculous effect. Without much time to think, Lu Qing suddenly took a deep breath and let his spirit enter the state of concealment of spirit and qi. He visualized the white peaks and thousands of miles of snow, and got rid of all distracting thoughts, leaving only the part of him that was integrated into it. Boom! Lightning struck, and the snow mountain collapsed. Hundreds of millions of tons of snow turned into a torrent and rushed down. Lu Cheng shook his right arm as if he was going to release the power that engulfed everything. At this moment, his mega avalanche was ready in form and spirit. Just as his right arm was shaking, Peng Chengguang's thigh muscles suddenly tightened. His tattered martial arts shoes flew out and gave a quick and fierce side kick. However, before Lu Cheng's mega avalanche was released, he had already swayed his center of gravity and flashed to the back of Peng Chengguang. Seizing the opportunity when Peng Chengguang didn't withdraw his side kick, he lowered his waist and took a step forward, compressing the muscles of his arms and shoulders. Then he clasped his hands together and hit from the top right to the bottom left like a huge hammer. This was a blow that could withstand 2 tremor punches. This was the conventional killing move of Thunder Roar Zen, Mountain Smash Punch. Chapter 169. Lu Cheng was like a giant in myths and legends. He swung a sledgehammer and smashed it down from the top. He looked condescending and full of strength. Everyone in the Mingwei martial arts school exclaimed instinctively. Gao Rao, Zhang Ying and the others in the Mingwei martial arts school stood up directly. They had just witnessed Big Brother throw Lu Qing out with all his strength, which made him lose his center of gravity temporarily. He almost couldn't maintain his balance and had to use the old method of wandering to avoid the attack. However, in less than a minute, the situation took a turn for the worse. Big Brother was deceived by the feint and was caught by the enemy. He was about to face an attack that was hard to defend against. How could this happen? Big Brother was close to absolute reaction, and was not afraid of sneak attacks or feints. They couldn't understand what was happening in the arena. They only felt that their dream had turned into a nightmare. They subconsciously clenched their fists and tightened their bodies, looking at the arena with worry and hope. Not only did they not understand, but the 4 professional 9th pin fighters of Azure Dragon Squad were also confused. They couldn't understand the response of the 2 in the arena. Others only knew that Lu Cheng relied on mercurial balance to avoid the attack and look for an opportunity. However, they could see that it was actually Pang Chengguang who was worried about a head-on collision. Facing Lu Cheng's attack, he didn't dodge first and then counterattacked. He relied on his vision, knowledge and judgment to seize the opportunity and attack the opponent's vital points directly, forcing the opponent to give up the idea of a head-on collision. How could Pang Chengguang be afraid of a head-on collision with Lu Cheng? Didn't he just crush the green bricks and throw Lu Cheng out of the room? In terms of strength, speed, agility, skills, experience and style, he shouldn't be afraid. Several fighters of Azure Dragon Squad looked at each other and vaguely felt that something was wrong. What was Pang Chengguang, who had beaten them so badly, afraid of? After he flung Lu Cheng out, why didn't he take the opportunity to attack and kill him? At this moment, Lu Cheng had completely forgotten the changes around him. He couldn't hear the exclamations of the audience and the cheers after they woke up. His eyes and ears were only focused on Pang Chengguang's every move. He clasped his hands together and swung down fiercely with the momentum of, "I swear I won't stop until I break this mountain." If Pang Chengguang used the scorpion swings its tail, then he would use the mountain smash quake to block his kick. After all, the Thunder Roar Zen only required contact, and there was no rule on where the contact had to be. Once the force of explosion was released, the resulting shockwave would be almost the same as hitting a vital point. If Pang Chengguang gave up his stance and rolled forward to avoid the attack, then he would withdraw his strength in time and catch up with him in large strides. He would seize the opportunity when Pang Chengguang was unable to support himself and could not use his strength to secure the victory. The subsequent changes flashed through Lu Cheng's mind. He swung the sledgehammer, even more resolutely. At this moment, Pang Chengguang didn't completely withdraw his right leg from the side kick. Instead, he took the opportunity to shrink his neck and jump to the right. Lu Cheng's mountain smash punch, which was aimed at his right shoulder, turned into an attack on his left shoulder. As soon as his right foot touched the ground, he suddenly lowered his center of gravity and lowered his waist into a sitting position. His body seemed to curl up subtly. His strength and qi and blood seemed to condense at one point in his dantian. Then, that point suddenly burst out and gushed out. As Pang Chengguang's body opened, the force rushed to his shoulder. Pang Chengguang stepped on the ground and his shoulder exploded. All the muscles in his body bulged. He took the initiative to raise his shoulder to meet Lu Cheng's mountain smash. Bam! The moment the two came into contact, Lu Cheng exploded the thunderclouds in his mind and opened up the tightened muscles, creating a violent vibration like the bombardment of cannonballs. At the same time, Pang Chengguang quickly turned his back and shook his shoulders. Bam! Pang Chengguang's 2 tattered martial arts shoes opened and turned into butterflies fluttering above the cracks on the ground. Lu Cheng was like a kite with a broken string. He was thrown out of the air and fell a few meters away. Pang Chengguang barely blocked the killing move of Thunder Roar Zen in this desperate situation with only a simple sitting position. But he didn't feel good. His joints, fascias, and muscles were visibly trembling. His qi and blood were rolling crazily. His internal organs were shaking. Every part of his body was buzzing and trembling. He was out of control. Lu Cheng just landed on the ground and took a few steps forward. He was adjusting his muscles and recovering his center of gravity. He was also accumulating strength. Bam! He stepped on a green brick with his right foot and turned around. Like a fierce eagle, he pounced on Pang Chengguang again. He wanted to seize the opportunity when Pang Chengguang hadn't fully recovered from the violent vibration and give him another Thunder Roar Zen. Kill him while he's down. Lu Cheng pounced on Pang Chengguang for a few meters. He tightened the muscles of his right arm and swayed his back. He shook the fascias of his torso and was about to launch a powerful mountain blast punch. The third strike of Thunder Roar Zen. Peng Chengguang's body hadn't fully recovered from the vibration. He didn't dare to block it directly. He stepped on the ground with his bare foot and swept backward. He landed a few meters away steadily. Lu Cheng didn't show any mercy. He stepped forward with his left foot and broke the green brick. With the help of the rebound, he pounced on Peng Chengguang again. His right hand was ready to launch the tremor punch. Peng Chengguang stepped on the ground again and continued to sweep backward. He quickly dodged to a few meters away. His dodging was similar to Lin Kei's when he dodged Wei Shengtian's attack. The difference was that Lin Kei was like a nimble mountain goat, while Lu Cheng was like a flying goose. Lu Cheng didn't feel frustrated at all. His eyes were firm and his mind was calm. He stepped on the ground with his right foot and continued to attack. He didn't give Peng Chengguang any chance to catch his breath. After retreating 3 times in a row, Peng Chengguang stood at the edge of the ring. His feet suddenly stopped, like a dam standing in front of a flood. His body suddenly straightened. When he retreated for the second time, the vibration in his body was almost recovered. He retreated again just to launch a counterattack. Peng Chengguang lowered his center of gravity and condensed his qi and blood into a single point. His right hand first swung back and then turned into a long spear. With the terrifying explosion of strength and the shaking of his snake-like muscles, Peng Chengguang thrust the spear at Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng, who had exhausted his momentum. Lu Cheng didn't dodge at all. He swung his right arm with the courage to meet an enemy in a narrow path. The explosion made a thunderous sound and ignited the tremor Zen. Bang! The two collided. Peng Chengguang's qi and blood were rolling over. He felt dizzy and his chest was tight. But his explosion just now offset most of the vibration, so his body didn't tremble violently. Lu Cheng, on the other hand, was forced to take 3 steps back, crushing several green bricks. Only then was he able to neutralize the boundless force and stabilize his body. At this time, Peng Chengguang had counterattacked and got close to him. He took half a step forward and hit him with the crushing punch. For him, after 3 explosions, his body was close to its limit. If he was hit by 2 or 3 more tremor punches, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. Moreover, his opponent had prepared a feint attack, so he couldn't judge in advance. He had to rely on his eyes, ears and other senses to help identify. In this way, it would be difficult for him to attack back. He would always try to win the vital points and force his opponent to give up. Therefore, he had to get close to his opponent. He had to fight at close range and not give his opponent a chance to compress his muscles and use the tremor punch. Bang! Lu Cheng stabilized in time and swung his fist down to block Peng Chengguang's crushing punch. But Peng Chengguang leaned on his left foot and slightly leaned his body, followed by an elbow attack. Lu Cheng had to give up the idea of borrowing strength. He exploded the strength of his left shoulder and blocked with his hand. Bang! 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 The two people kept colliding in the small space. Hands, wrists, elbows, shoulders, knees, toes and other parts hit one after another. The result was decided in an instant. The referee at the side was nervous and became more cautious. Because every year, more than 70% of the cases of injuries and deaths due to not being able to stop in time were in this kind of close combat situation. The sound of punches and kicks was endless. In such a close combat, Lu Cheng didn't have a chance to use the tremor Zen. Even the strength of his legs became rushed. He was suppressed by Peng Chengguang in terms of strength. But his mind was cold, his judgment was calm, and his moves were firm. Plus, his big and small hand wrap was flexible and fierce, so he didn't panic. He believed that Peng Chengguang would become weaker as the fight went on. In the heat of the battle, both of them moved sideways and collided with each other. Bang! Peng Chengguang's body shook. Lu Cheng seemed to be a little slower and took a step back. Chance! Peng Chengguang knew that he couldn't fight for a long time. Taking advantage of this rare opportunity, he took a step forward and grabbed Lu Cheng's left arm that was dragging behind. He knew that his listening skill was not as good as Lu Cheng's, so he didn't grab Lu Cheng. When he was about to use force to tear Lu Cheng's arm, he suddenly felt that Lu Cheng's muscles tightened and stuck inwards, which made his judgment a little bit wrong. At the same time, Lu Cheng's spine straightened and his back swayed. The right side of his body swung and his fist quickly and violently punched out like a long-awaited cannonball. Bang! Peng Chengguang hurriedly parried and felt that Lu Cheng's strength exploded immediately. Although it was much weaker than before, It was still very scary. His body trembled and his qi and blood were rolling. He saw Lu Cheng's left arm free and pulled back. Then he swung it up and hit him fiercely again. Thunder roar zen. Bang bang bang. Lu Cheng swung his arms and attacked continuously. Peng Chengguang's internal organs were very uncomfortable and his brain was buzzing. Seeing this, Mo Zizong, the captain of Azure Dragon Squad, suddenly realized something and blurted out, "Tremor Punch! Lu Cheng has mastered Tremor Punch." No wonder Peng Chengguang wanted to avoid a head-on fight. No wonder he didn't seize the opportunity to attack before. Tremor Punch? Deng Hua and the other two fighters whispered in surprise. At this moment, Lu Cheng swung his right arm again and tightened his muscles. In the thunder reverberating in his brain, he unreasonably hammered down. Thunder roar zen hit again. Bang! Peng Chengguang barely parried. His body swayed and his eyes were full of dizziness. He was like a person who was born with impaired hearing and went on a roller coaster ride. Lu Cheng shook his left arm like a spear and stopped at Peng Chengguang's throat. Peng Chengguang couldn't even raise his hands. The referee heaved a sigh of relief and announced loudly, "The final round, Lu Cheng wins." Lu Cheng also heaved a sigh of relief and smiled sincerely. "You're very good. I almost lost. If Peng Chengguang had better martial arts, not to mention the Thunder Roar Zen and the Meteor Force, even the Mega Avalanche would be able to defeat him." Peng Chengguang's brain was buzzing and his body was very uncomfortable. He only saw Lu Cheng's mouth open and close but couldn't hear clearly. It was rare that he didn't show his maturity and answered blankly, "What?" Chapter 170. What? In the face of Peng Chengguang's dumbfounded question, Lu Cheng was also a little dumbfounded. When he had just finished the fight, his blood was boiling, so he expressed his feelings and said a few words from the bottom of his heart. It was normal. But as time passed, it would be more *king embarrassing if he had to repeat it again. He could only keep a polite smile and said, "You are very good." That was true. Last week, when he fought with Kid Xie's brother in Tiantong Taoist Temple, he relied on the element of surprise, but Peng Chengguang had almost no power to fight back. If he had used Kid Xie's 2 kung fu skills on Peng Chengguang, he would have lost. Thinking of this, Lu Cheng was about to say something, but his ears suddenly buzzed. He heard a burst of deafening shouts around him. "Lu Cheng! Lu Cheng!" Most of the audience were students. Although they couldn't understand the turbulent undercurrent in the fight between the two, and they couldn't tell how terrible the shock force was, they had eyes after all. They could see the cracks on the ground like a spider web when Peng Chengguang burst out several times. They could see Lu Cheng step on the black bricks and understand the thrill of the close combat between the two of them. They could also clearly see the beauty of Lu Cheng swinging his arms and hammering again and again. That was the pinnacle of pure physical violence. That was a scene that showed off the beauty of strength. That hammering seemed to have hammered into the hearts of the audience, bit by bit, hammering away their disguises and the walls that they had built up. It allowed them to vent the emotions that they had been suppressing day after day, boiling with the purest of hot-bloodedness. This feeling made many students, who were used to controlling their emotions, feel uncomfortable. After the referee announced the result, they were a little confused, and there was a short pause. But soon they couldn't hold it and shouted that name. "Lu Cheng!" The shouts of 2,000 to 3,000 people converged into a storm. If they materialized, it would be enough to blow away the dome of the martial arts arena. However, in such a lively atmosphere, there were 4 people who felt as if a basin of cold water had been poured over their heads in the dead of winter. They felt cold from the top of their heads to the soles of their feet, and from the surface of their bodies to their bones. "How can we fight like this?" Deng Hua, who had a Mohican hairstyle, was quite confident and relaxed when he came to Songqing University. But after Lu Cheng's Thunder Roar Zen, his confidence fell to the bottom. When Mo Zizong shouted the 2 words, "Tremor Punch," he was full of despair. Seeing his mouth open and close, Mo Zizong and the others' faces turned ashen. Against Lu Cheng, a tag team battle was ineffective. However, judging from the match between him and Fearless Squad, his own strength had yet to reach the level where he could sweep away most of the 9th pin fighters. This left an opportunity. As long as any one of the 4 of them fought hard enough, even if they couldn't win against him, they would still be able to let their next comrade win. At that time, although Lin Ke was strong, He didn't have abnormal stamina. The two of them could take turns to challenge each other and win. As for the remaining contestant from Songcheng University, they didn't care about him at all. However, Lu Cheng suddenly mastered Tremor Punch in just 2 weeks. Without any method to restrain him, who would dare to face him head-on? If they didn't face him head-on, how could they fight hard enough? What was more frightening was that even if Lin K, a top professional 9th pin fighter, had mastered a martial art similar to Tremor Punch, he could only hit them 3 or 4 times at most, which was not enough to defeat them. If they were cautious and careful, they would still have a chance to face him head-on or avoid him. But Lu Cheng had mastered Tremor Punch. It was different. He could swing his arms and shake continuously. Most of the professional 9th pin fighters couldn't stand it. If Pang Qingguang couldn't stand it, they, who were weaker than him, certainly couldn't stand it either. How could they fight? Bang bang bang. Mo Zizong seemed to hear the sound of Tremor Punch in his heart. He saw himself and the others were beaten down the arena one by Lu Cheng. None of them could withstand more than 3 attacks. How could they fight? They looked at each other and saw the fear in each other's eyes, which was completely different from the relaxed attitude they had when they came here. They watched the strong enemy until they lost all their confidence and dared not to fight. When Zhao Chong, Zhang Jingye, and the others threw away their usual image of good students and shouted and vented, Lu Qing first met Yan Zhika's eyes in the martial arts club seating area and silently waved his fist. Then he saw Pang Qingguang shake his head and barely recover. After a salute, he walked down the arena and walked to Gao Rao, Zhang Ying, and the other junior brothers and sisters who were dumbfounded. After Lu Cheng returned the salute, he wanted to ask Pang Qingguang why he didn't ally with other martial arts clubs to pursue the martial arts' unique skill reward of the preliminaries. But he felt that they didn't know each other well, so he suppressed the question. Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng. Echoing in the martial arts stadium, Lu Cheng released the joy in his heart. He didn't think about anything else and enjoyed the sweet taste of victory to his heart's content. He raised his hands and applauded while walking back to the home team's seat. He high-fived Yan Zhika, Lin K, Sun Jian, Li Mao, and the others to celebrate. At this time, some students came back to their senses. Looking at the many broken bricks in the arena, they suddenly remembered the video of the jumper and the martial artist who saved the student. He also stepped on the ground and made a similar crack. Comparing the figure, he suddenly realized and shouted, "It's Lu Cheng who saved the student." Him. Yes, it's not Lin Quebec. It must be him. 1 spread to 10. 10 spread to 100. The shouting in the martial arts stadium weakened a lot, but the flashing of mobile phones came one after another. Many students were so excited that their faces turned red. They looked at Lu Cheng with admiration and talked excitedly with their companions around them. The warm atmosphere didn't decrease but increased. In the seats of Mingwei Martial Arts Club, Zhang Ying, Chu Yu, and the others were speechless and fell into an extremely depressed silence. It seemed that they couldn't accept eldest brother's failure even more than him. Pang Qingguang glanced at them and listened to the shouts echoing in the martial arts stadium. He smiled bitterly and said, "What's there to be sad about? What's so unacceptable about losing to such an opponent? It will only spur me to not slack off and make me want to catch up." After that, he turned around and looked at Songcheng University Martial Arts Club subconsciously. When that time comes, what level will Lu Cheng be at? After applying the ointment for Lu Cheng in the locker room and being kissed by him several times when no one was around, Yan Zhika returned to the dormitory with her eyebrows and eyes watery. For the time being, she didn't tell Lu Cheng that her mother might come to check on him. She planned to discuss with her boyfriend after thinking about the countermeasures. As soon as she stepped into the dormitory, she saw Zhong Yenru and Shi Xiangyang around Li Liantong. They were looking at her mobile phone and whispering praises from time to time. "It's really amazing. How did he grow his feet? It's so tiring to wear shoes in a martial arts competition." Hearing that, Yan Zhika was happy and blurted out, "Dirty Tong, you finished the video." This was the video she asked her roommate to help her record. Only Lu Cheng's part was included. It was hard to say when a recorded match would be broadcasted. But the match between Lu Cheng and Pang Qingguang was very memorable. She wanted to get the video as soon as possible and save it for her boyfriend. "Of course. We all recorded a video for your meal and didn't pay attention to the match," Li Liantong answered proudly. Yan Zhika was so happy that she urged, "Let me see. Is it blurry?" Li Liantong laughed. "How is it possible? Please call me a video expert. While talking, Yen Zheka moved closer to them and watched the video carefully, recalling what happened yesterday. Last week, because the recording of her first match was delayed until Friday, she almost forgot to save it. Luckily, Qing always remembered this and set the alarm. During class, he ran back to the dormitory with the excuse of diarrhea and finished the recording online. Because they were in the same teaching building and she was sitting by the window, she happened to see Cheng sprinting to the dormitory area. So she sent him a message and asked what happened. His answer made her eyes red and her heart warm. That was why she asked Li Liantong and her roommates to help her record the match today. Yen Zheka watched the video from beginning to end and was very satisfied. While asking Li Liantong to copy the video to the computer, she mentioned that her mom might come to check on her. She put her palms together and said, "When my mom comes, if I'm not in the dormitory, just tell her the truth. Just don't mention Cheng and tell her that I went shopping with Guaqing on the weekend." Zhong Yenru was a little confused. "Ku, will your mom fly here? Just to tell her that she has a boyfriend?" Yen Zheka put on a serious face and nodded hard. "I think she will. Let me tell you. My mom's biggest feature is that she is very active. She will either not come or come in the next few days. If she wasn't active, she wouldn't have dared to elope. I feel like I'm going to face Empress Dowager soon." Shi Xiangyang was a little scared and joked. After telling her roommates, Yen Zheka took out the freshman handbook from the bookshelf and found the map of the new campus that occupied 2 pages. She sat down, took out a ruler and drew on the map. She looked more beautiful as she concentrated. Li Liantong and her roommates were stunned and didn't understand what she was doing. Looking at the map and measuring the distance, Yen Zheka's eyes moved up and she whispered to herself, "If my mom suddenly attacks, she probably wants to secretly observe. But she's not familiar with the school's terrain and my class schedule. With her intelligence, she definitely won't wait among tens of thousands of people. She will choose a place where she has a high chance of meeting me and can watch from afar." According to this condition, there are only 3 places she can choose. One is the place near the entrance of the dormitory, where she can directly see everyone coming back from the cafeteria. 2 is the end of the long bridge near the teaching area, where anyone who wants to go back to the dormitory or to the cafeteria can't escape her eyes. 3 is the place where the martial arts stadium comes out. She is of professional 9th pin. According to the data, her observation range is about this large. Yen Zheka bit her lower lip and carefully outlined 3 dangerous areas on the map. Then she nodded with satisfaction. "Well, as long as Cheng doesn't get close to me in these areas, my mom won't find out." She was about to praise herself when she suddenly saw Li Liantong come to her side and said with a strange face, "Ku, can't you just ask Lu Cheng to keep a distance from you for a few days? What calculation, what inference, what observation range, what dangerous areas? What kind of brain circuit is this?" Yen Zheka blinked her eyes innocently and said, with an Chapter 171. After so many rounds of Thunder Roar Zen, Lu Cheng was also quite tired. His physical strength was fine, but his mind couldn't bear it anymore. Tightening and compressing specific muscles and controlling them until they exploded when colliding with the enemy was definitely not something that could be done easily. Not to mention that he had to punch and attack during the process. After this battle, Lu Cheng estimated that his current limit was 10 consecutive strikes of Thunder Roar Zen. He had more than enough strength but not enough heart. Because of this, he didn't try to seduce Yen Zheka to stay in the locker room and whisper sweet nothings. Instead, he accepted her suggestion to come back early, take a nap, and go to study together in the evening. At this time, Kai Zhongming and others had not come back yet. Lu Cheng was lying in bed, still excited and happy. He couldn't fall asleep quickly, so he picked up his phone and browsed his own fan forum. As soon as he opened it, he saw Eternal Nightfall rolling around and acting cute. "It's a recording again. I'm going to die if I don't see Lu Cheng again." Corresponding to her, Brahman also made a post and said seriously, "I'm going to call Songqing TV station to complain." "Well, shouldn't you call to give suggestions?" Nye Chi-Chi felt a little confused about the little girl's thinking. Brahman said with an angry emoji, "Little Nightfall and I have already called to propose. They didn't listen. I'm going to complain." Eternal Nightfall quickly followed up with a reply, "That's right. They even said in all seriousness, "Sorry, this is the broadcasting arrangement of our television station. Please pay attention to the recording and broadcasting time." Heya, this broadcasting tone is really good. Ha 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 ha, I want to beat them to death. Lu Cheng wanted to laugh. After browsing this post, he opened another one. He saw that Unparalleled Dragon King was taking refuge here. He said with a lingering fear, "Never reason with girls, especially two underage ones." Yeah, the generation gap is as deep as the Mariana Trench. Okamoto's fans shook hands with tears. But, seriously, how can you be sure that they are girls? Once they take off their pants, they may be thicker and longer than you, Manual Funny. In the past few days, they had made a series of efforts to persuade, comfort, and convince Eternal Nightfall and Brahman, but they had all failed miserably. Instead, they had been angrily rebuked by the two girls for dozens of streets. Sigh. Without the live broadcast, the number of fans I've worked so hard to increase has gone down again. Lu Cheng sighed, exited the post and returned to the homepage. At this moment, he noticed a familiar ID appearing at the top of the post, Lu Cheng's girlfriend. Cuckoo? Lu Cheng was surprised and subconsciously looked at the title of the post. Video, Songqing Division Preliminaries, Lu Cheng vs. Peng Chengguang. Where did the video come from? Shocked and confused, he clicked on the post and found that Yan Zheka only left a video and 3 words. "You're welcome." Lu Cheng was stunned and chose to play the video. Immediately, he saw himself walking up the ring step by step. Peng Chengguang had already positioned himself and made an inviting gesture. The whole video was shot from a relatively far distance, so it couldn't show the facial expressions and other details. But the cameraman's hands were steady, so the picture was quite clear. Sometimes, the cameraman even aimed at the big screen to make up for the shortcomings of the long-distance camera. The fierce battle was reproduced in a relatively complete way. Shot from the stands. Kuka got it so quickly. She must have specially asked Dirty Tong to shoot it. Lu Cheng was surprised and vaguely guessed the truth. He remembered that yesterday he had run nearly 2 kilometers in order to shoot the video of Yan Zheka's first battle in time. While he was wholeheartedly doing something for his lover, she was also wholeheartedly doing something for him. Lu Cheng felt both joy and warmth. His heart was filled with an inexplicable feeling and indescribable satisfaction. He really wanted to run to Yan Zheka and hug her tightly. This feeling was too good. Holding the phone, he smiled and turned over on the bed. Unable to hold back his emotions, he opened the contact list and selected Yan Zheka's phone number. In just a few seconds, a sweet and mechanical voice came into his ears. "Sorry, the number you have dialed is busy right now. Please try again later." Yan Zheka stood on the balcony, looking at the drizzle outside. Spring was in full bloom. "Hello, Mom. Why did you suddenly call me?" She held the phone and pretended to be surprised. At the other end of the phone was a clear but mature voice. "You little girl. I'm your mother. Do I need a reason to call you when I miss you?" Yan Zheka chuckled and said, "I was thinking of you, Mom, who are busy every day. Besides, I just called you 2 days ago. No matter how busy I am, it's not as important as my daughter." The mature woman laughed and said, "I heard from your Uncle Xie that you have a boyfriend." Yan Zheka wanted to say, no, but she didn't want to deny the boyfriend thing. Inexplicably, she was afraid that her words would come true, so she said in a spoiled manner, "Don't listen to him. It's all Uncle's fault for bringing Xie Tianke and the others here without even mentioning it. It made me super embarrassed. I couldn't stand it, so I asked my friends from the martial arts club for help." She subconsciously didn't say the words, shield. "Why did your friends from the martial arts club go to Tian Tong Taoist temple with you?" The mature woman pretended to ask casually. Yan Zheka had already prepared a draft in her mind. "To visit my cousin." The mature woman chuckled and said, "Isn't your cousin mildly autistic? How come there are friends who are willing to travel such a long distance to visit him?" "Mom, you don't understand. This is the battle friendship between men." Yan Zheka tried to make herself lively so that her mother wouldn't find anything strange. "He cooperated with my cousin and defeated an 8th pin Dan stage fighter by taking turns to fight him. They kind of appreciate each other. He's a strong fighter of professional 9th pin? Haha, your cousin can only make friends on the martial path." The mature woman seemed to be relieved of her doubts and said, "Ku, your dad and I don't approve of you dating in college, not because it's old-fashioned, but because we think that real love should only appear after you have experienced more, seen more, and broadened your vision. At that time, you can understand what kind of relationship you really want. Besides, Ku, have you forgotten your dream? Every time you tell us what you want to do in the future and what you plan to pursue, you are so beautiful that I can't help but be jealous. I always think that I can't let those bastards cheat our little princess away." Yen Zheka listened quietly with a smile on her face. Her dimples were shallow and contained warmth. She felt her mother's love from these words, so she didn't refute and just promised, "Mom, don't worry, I won't date casually." "Yes, I won't date casually. I am very serious, and I like to date very much." The phone call didn't go through. Lu Cheng was so tired that he fell into a deep sleep. After an hour, he woke up naturally. He picked up his phone and refreshed it, intending to see the replies in the video post. On the second floor, Eternal Nightfall sent a jumping emoji. "You're welcome. I'll just bow one bow." Brahman followed closely. "2 bows. Nye Chi also said, 3 bows. Unparalleled Dragon King wiped his cold sweat and said, "Only a family return gift is left to play the morning music." After these few posts, they didn't reply for a long time. Obviously, they went to watch the video of the competition. "The feeling of a candid shot makes me feel like I'm watching an AV," said Eternal Nightfall with a funny emoji. "To be honest, after only 2 weeks of not watching Lu Cheng's matches, I can't even recognize the person on the stage as him. He's much fiercer than before, much bolder and more powerful than before." After a series of sighs, Brahman laughed with arms akimbo. "Little Nightfall, you are getting more and more dirty. But that's not the point. The point is that my idol is more handsome, more handsome, more handsome. Important things must be said 3 times. He is so manly." Love-struck emoji. Unparalleled Dragon King expressed his doubts. "I don't understand. There are so many strange details in the competition." At this time, Road to the Arena, who had come in at some point, said, "If I'm not wrong, Lu Cheng has mastered Tremor Punch." Tremor Punch? No wonder. Unparalleled Dragon King sent an emoji of slapping its thigh. After only 2 weeks of not watching, he has become a living person and mastered Tremor Punch. This is an amazing martial art. Road to the Arena sent a funny emoji. Even if all the professional 9th pin fighters in the country were to be listed, Lu Cheng, who has mastered Tremor Punch, would be among the top. He is only a little bit behind. If I were to fight with him again, I would definitely be beaten to a pulp within 3 punches. So it is Tremor Punch. Although I don't understand it very well, I feel that it is very powerful." Eternal Nightfall replied excitedly. After some discussion, Okamoto's fans said, "Come on, let's celebrate Lu Cheng's mastery of Tremor Punch. I will continue to drive." "Humph. You are not the driver," Unparalleled Dragon King said after cursing. From the video, the ID Lu Cheng's girlfriend is a student of Songqing University. "Yes." Lu Cheng's girlfriend appeared and replied with an obedient sitting straight. Seeing this, Lu Cheng felt happy and continued to scroll down. "Really? Then what gossip do you know? Does my idol have a girlfriend?" Brahman asked curiously. "Yes." Yen Zheka replied with a righteous emoji. Eternal Nightfall was also interested. Who? Do you have a picture? Is it his classmate?" "It's me. Look at my ID." Yen Zheka covered her mouth and laughed. "I don't even know if you are a boy or a girl." Unparalleled Dragon King wiped his cold sweat again. Yen Zheka replied immediately. "Of course it's a girl. A cute girl." When she said that, the others did not believe her. Only Eternal Nightfall said with a bright and piercing gaze, "I will believe whatever you say, as long as you are a good undercover and often tell us about Lu Cheng's situation." "No, I have made up my mind. Dad, I'm your long-lost son." After a burst of laughter, Lu Cheng's girlfriend didn't appear. "Little Nightfall, he was scared away by your filth," Brahman said with disdain. "How am I filthy?" Eternal Nightfall felt wronged. "Isn't it filthy to call anyone your dad?" Brahman laughed. Seeing this, Lu Qing exited the forum and called Yan Zheka with a smile. He was a little proud of today's victory, but not arrogant. Even Pang Qingguang, who didn't have any good martial arts skills, could almost defeat him. What about those professional 9th pin fighters with inheritance, talent and strong support? On the way back, the 4 members of the Azure Dragon squad fell into a depressed atmosphere. Depression echoed in the silence. Suddenly, Deng Hua with a Mohican hairstyle said in a low voice, "I have an idea." Chapter 172. What is it? Mo Zizong, the captain of Azure Dragon squad, looked back at Deng Hua from the passenger seat. Lu Cheng had mastered Tremor Punch, and Lin Ke was about to come back. No matter how he thought about it, he was sure to lose. What else could he do? Deng Hua touched his Mohican hairstyle, exhaled and said, "We apply for a special competition format." "Stool, are you stupid? We don't know how to make a formation." Zhu Tao, the bald tough guy with whiskers, looked at his companion as if he was an idiot. The special competition format was to apply for 3 people to fight at the same time with the excuse that one's own team was good at formations instead of fighting alone. The opponent could use formations to break through formations, or they could use 6 people to fight against formations. The Azure Dragon squad was a combination of several dojos. Not to mention whether or not there was such a thing as a formation, even if there was, the 4 different professional martial artists with different backgrounds would have mastered completely different things, so how could there be a formation? Su Zhang, who was in charge of driving, couldn't help but laugh and scold. "Stool, don't be so whimsical. Damn it, Songqing University Martial Arts Club must have taken the wrong medicine to participate in the preliminaries. Now we have to wait for next year." When they first formed the team, they were very confident and thought that no matter which group they were assigned to, they would be able to win. Who knew that Songqing University Martial Arts Club would come out halfway? And Pan Chengyun from Hongluo Martial Arts School was also a professional 9th pin fighter. Together with Jiang Guasheng and Fang Tong, they were not to be underestimated. This was a once-in-a-decade death group. Deng Hua had thought through the details and smiled. "We don't know how to make a formation, but the substitutes of Songqing University Martial Arts Club are very weak." "Hiss, you tell us in detail." Mo Zizong took a breath and vaguely grasped the key point. Deng Hua said with a smile, "We can't resist Lu Cheng's Tremor Punch, and we can't beat Lin Ke who is coming back. But we can barely be considered as strong professional 9th pin fighters. If we know the information in advance, we won't lose so easily, right? We have enough strength to hold them back for a while, right? For example, if you fight Lin Ke, you won't be killed in seconds, right? If you deliberately hold them back, you can at least hold on for 2 or 3 minutes, right? I'm quite confident about this." Mo Zizong nodded slightly and roughly understood Deng Hua's idea. Deng Hua glanced at the bald Zhu Tao and laughed. "Brother Tsong, leave Lin Ke to me, and I'll deal with Lu Cheng. The rest of Songqing University's martial artists are all amateurs. They barely have the strength of first pin." "Do you have the confidence to defeat 4 amateur martial artists of second and third pin in a short time? Ants can bite an elephant to death." "I can only say that it's half and half," Zhu Tao answered cautiously. "Isn't this settled?" Deng Hua raised his voice and said, "After you deal with those amateur fighters, you can join us to besiege Lin Ke or Lu Cheng. Do you think they can grow 3 heads and 6 arms? If they are impatient in the middle, they might even make mistakes." Stool is right. If we don't do this, we won't even have a 10% chance of winning. We can only hope that Lu Cheng and Lin Ke don't perform well on the spot. But with the special competition system, we have at least a 50% chance of winning. Mo Zizong agreed happily. "Let's apply as soon as possible. It'll be hard to get approved if we're late." Once the special competition system was used, there would be a big mess in the ring. One referee was not enough, even if there was a competition supervisor. They had to make arrangements in advance. So the earlier they applied, the easier it would be to get approved. Of course, the Azure Dragon squad also thought that they had some connections to make the organizing committee believe in the formation. "All right." Zhu Tao and Su Zhang shouted in unison, recovering their previous emotions and high fighting spirit. Yan Zheka closed the computer cover and was about to wash the clothes in the basin when she suddenly heard her phone vibrating. She picked it up and found that it was Chung calling. Unconsciously, She smiled and walked back to the balcony, closing the glass door that separated the inside from the outside. Sorry, the number you have dialed is busy right now. Please try again later. Yan Zhika's eyes moved and she said clearly. How could Lu Qing not recognize his girlfriend's voice? He was immediately amused and laughed. Which operator will say that the number is busy after a long time? Yan Zhika smiled. I'm just afraid that you're stupid. If I say, sorry, the number you have dialed is busy right now, you might believe me. Her light and lively tone affected Lu Qing, making him feel better. He smiled and said softly, I saw the video you posted on the forum. Yan Zhika's dimples appeared and she felt a little shy. She raised her chin slightly and said, I'm sorry, but I don't know what to say. What are you talking about? I don't understand. The reason why she chose to upload the video to the forum instead of sending it to Lu Qing was because she was shy. She couldn't possibly tell her boyfriend that she had specially asked Dirty Tong to record a video for him so that he and his fans could see it in advance. That would be too embarrassing. Of course, if Lu Qing didn't check the forum in the afternoon, she was prepared to send the video to him without explaining anything and then say, Come on, praise me. Lu Qing laughed again when he heard the girl's confused answer. His heart was even warmer. He asked, How much did you pay? Yan Zhika didn't deny it again. She leaned against the windowsill in the living room and smiled. A meal. After that, she said proudly, I feel that IDs like Lu Qing's XXX are going to be popular. A lot of them just now. What are they? Lu Qing asked happily and curiously. If they weren't talking on the phone, he would have sent a doting smile emoji. Yan Zhika pursed her lips and looked at the sky. She raised her voice and said, I'm not telling you. After chatting happily for a while, she thought of something important. She took a breath and said, Cheng, my mom may come over in a few days. Lu Qing was shocked. Why is your mom coming all of a sudden? Most men were instinctively afraid of mothers-in-law, just like facing Empress Dowager. It's all because of Uncle Xie. Yan Zhika pushed all the responsibility to Xie Qingzhen. Xie Tianke wasn't the only one who saw us holding hands that day. His dad also saw us. We didn't notice it and didn't remind him. When he visited my grandpa 2 days ago, he mentioned it casually. Then my mom knew about it. Fortunately, my brother covered for us and said that I asked for help because I was annoyed by Xie Tianke's pestering. After that, she silently opened her mouth and said to herself, It's my cousin who said it, not me. Fortunately, Yan Zhika finished her words in one breath. Lu Qing was not scared out of his wits. He said with lingering fear, It's all my fault. I didn't want to waste the time with you. Will your mom really come over to patrol? Hearing the first half of her boyfriend's words, Yan Zhika's 2 dimples quietly bloomed. She said in a serious tone, Trust me. My mom is a very capable person. I even suspect that she's on her way to the airport. His explanation alone was definitely not enough to make his smart mom completely believe him. Phew. Lu Qing exhaled and said with some disappointment and reluctance, Then we should keep a good distance these days? Yan Zhika gently bit her lower lip with her pearly white teeth. She thought for a while and said, It's not that serious. As long as we pay attention to the 3 sections from the martial arts arena to the teaching area, from the water conference hall to the long bridge, and from the entrance of the pedestrian street to my dormitory, we won't be afraid. My mom can't just wander around the campus like a headless fly, right? You're right. There are so many people in the cafeteria during mealtime. There are so many tables in the cafeteria. It's very unlikely that she'll see us. Lu Qing cheered up and happily agreed. But, how did you determine these 3 sections? Deducing. Yan Zhika suddenly blushed. Delicate and beautiful. Just because of this, Dirty Tong laughed at her for having abnormal brain circuits. After a few words on this topic, she asked a little worriedly, Cheng, are you a little unhappy? Do you feel that we have to be sneaky and hide? Lu Qing said sincerely, No. In fact, I feel a little guilty. I feel that I'm not good enough for you. If I really want to meet your mom now, I don't have the courage. I'm not confident that I'll leave a bad impression on your mom. If the first impression is bad, it'll be very difficult to turn it around. There will be more resistance when we're together in the future. I've been working hard to improve myself. I hope to be good enough to meet your mom and dad when I'm ready. I want to let them feel that I'm very reliable at first and that they can entrust their daughter to me without worry. Besides, I know that I confessed too early and too suddenly. Until now, you still can't say that you've completely adapted and accepted it. If there's more external pressure, I'm afraid you'll feel that this relationship is too tiring, too troublesome, and too restrictive. So it's not bad to be sneaky now. Quietly listening to Lu Cheng's somewhat messy and somewhat inarticulate explanation, Yan Zheke suddenly felt that Lu Cheng valued and slightly clumsy love from the bottom of his heart. Her heart warmed and her eyes turned red. She said in a low voice, "Cheng, actually, I like you very much already." "What?" Lu Cheng asked blankly. Yan Zheke gently bit her pink lips and said with a faint smile, "Nothing, just a shout. As for the fact that I like you very much, I'll tell you in the future when I have the chance. Mother-in-law is coming." Lu Cheng was a little dazed when he put down the phone. He felt that he should do something, but after careful consideration, he thought that not doing anything was the best response. The more he did, the more likely he would make mistakes and be found out. Sigh. I can't believe that I'm only 19 years old and I'm already experiencing the majesty of a mother-in-law. He laughed at himself. He was a little puzzled by his classmates who fell in love early in middle school or high school. What kind of feelings did they have when facing their mother-in-law? Or could it be that they never met her? After spending some time to calm down, he casually browsed the forum. Suddenly, he saw that Road to the Arena and Unparalleled Dragon King were discussing his master in the order of himself, Songqing University Martial Arts Club, coach. Old Dragon, you're the humanoid database I admire the most. Do you know the background of Coach Shi of Songqing University Martial Arts Club? Road to the Arena asked curiously. I've asked around and searched, but I couldn't find anything related to him. Logically speaking, with the Ice Sect inheritance, surname, and suspected physical invulnerability, it should be easy to find him. Unparalleled Dragon King sent a bitter smile emoji. I've searched, but I still can't find anything. Even on the list of preliminaries official website, his name is also Coach Shi. I'm beginning to suspect that his real name is Coach Shi. However, surname Shi and Ice Sect inheritance. I have a feeling that he has something to do with Shi Yuejian of Wuxia Club. Of course, he could also be using a fake surname. Chapter 173. Shi Yuejian. Lu Cheng chewed on the name. He was no stranger to this name. As a good youth in the internet age, he had tried to search for his master's full name to learn more about him. However, the result was similar to that of Unparalleled Dragon King and Road to the Arena. Unique skills of the Ice Sect and Shi could only identify Shi Yuejian, a mighty one with physical invulnerability from Wuxia Club. Lu Cheng strongly suspected that this was the daughter of Geezer Shi, his senior sister. However, he was not completely sure. After all, who knew if his master's surname was really Shi? Why did he have to be so mysterious? Lu Cheng complained. However, when he remembered that Geezer Shi had a close relationship with the military, he felt relieved. Unparalleled Dragon King continued his analysis. Judging from Coach Shi's appearance and age, he should be a master in the beginning stage of professional competitions. There was no internet back then, and TV broadcasting was not developed. The remaining videos of his matches today are all famous battles. Anyway, I don't remember any mighty one like him. I even suspect that he didn't fight much in the challenge tournament. Are you saying that he grew up through life and death battles? Road to the Arena was obviously shocked. It's just a suspicion. However, in the era of professional competitions and title matches, when many areas were in turmoil, it's not strange for him to take the path of life and death battles, Unparalleled Dragon King explained. Reading this, Lu Cheng suddenly remembered something Geezer Shi had once said. Before he reached the physical invulnerability stage, he had taken an adventure in the war-torn zones and killed a strong enemy with a Thunder Roar Zen. This was very consistent with Unparalleled Dragon King's inference. Lu Cheng scrolled down but there was no more information. He exited the forum and talked to Yan Zheke about this matter while waiting for dinner. The next morning, by the Weishui Lake. In high spirits, Lu Cheng came to the usual place and practiced the yin-yang stance one by one according to the usual order. However, compared to the past, He reduced the number of times he practiced the 24 blizzard strikes and other martial arts that he had long mastered so as to spare more time to further master the thunder roar Zen and repeatedly ponder the essence of the visualization diagram. The ice field was boundless, the snow was boundless, and the cold wind was howling. It was bone-chilling. Lu Cheng studied the visualization diagram a few times. He closed his eyes and concentrated his spirit and qi. Once again, he sketched the image of the cold and frozen land in his mind. He combined it with the feeling of winter he had experienced in the past to make the image as realistic as possible. How cold was it? It was cold to wear a cotton sweater, a thick sweater, and a down jacket. How piercing was the wind? It was bone-piercing, as if it was a knife. Thoughts flashed through his mind, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't combine his daily experience with the images he visualized. Gradually, those thoughts rose and fell one after another, gradually becoming chaotic. He could no longer control his mind and had no choice but to withdraw from the concealment state. "You're too impatient today." Geezer sure chuckled. "Yeah." Lu Cheng exhaled and responded in a low voice. He had also noticed his own problem just now. He was too impatient and not relaxed enough. It was obviously something difficult to get started with. He should have been in a leisurely mood, quietly comprehending it, and not in a hurry for success. However, he always wanted to achieve it in one go, so it was counterproductive. As for why he suddenly became impatient, it was because of the inexplicable pressure in his heart. 'Cause mother was coming. Mother-in-law was coming. After setting a goal for his college career at Tiantong Taoist Temple, his path was clear and he had more motivation to work hard. However, since there were still 3.5 years to go, the urgency and pressure weren't that serious. But now, suddenly, the Empress Dowager was coming. Even if he didn't have to face it himself, the goal seemed to be in front of him all of a sudden. It was clear that he could reach out and touch it, constantly reminding himself. Therefore, it was inevitable that he wanted to prove something, which added to his impatience. Huff. He breathed in the fresh air and calmed his mind. He didn't panic and re-entered the state of meditation. How can I grasp the essence and charm of the visualization diagram? Can I only rely on observation and experience every day and accumulate it bit by bit? I wonder if using a natural environment similar to the visualization diagram can speed up the process of grasping it? However, only a 1 in a million genius or mighty ones with extremely deep accumulation can comprehend nature. Can I do it? Even if I can, I don't have the time. Where can I find the time and money to go to the North Pole or the South Pole? Can I simplify it and go to places like the Ice Paradise or the Alpine Ski Resort? All kinds of ideas flashed in Lu Cheng's mind. He pondered whether using nature to assist his visualization would work, and at the same time, he considered a suitable location. Considering my status as a student and the fact that my personal savings have plummeted after the date gift, this method doesn't seem realistic. At this moment, Lu Cheng's eyes flashed. He thought of something. He thought of something that could replace the natural environment for his comprehension. Why am I so stupid? He scolded himself in his mind. If there was a ready-made sense of ice to assist him, why would he ask for external help? The Jindan in his body is half fire and half ice. I can totally calm my spirit and comprehend the ice in the Jindan. Suddenly, Lu Cheng was enlightened. He felt that everything in front of him had become clear and refreshing. This is definitely a little dangerous. But isn't my master right beside me? He put his thoughts into action. He calmed his excitement and concealed his spirit and qi again. This time, he didn't draw the frozen sky diagram. Instead, he slowly entered the state of inward vision, allowing the Jindan in his lower abdomen to enlarge inch by inch in front of his eyes. The ice crystals were like stars, translucent and dreamy. They slowly rotated around scorching flames of different colors, and reflected their light, making themselves resplendent and brilliant. Gradually, Lu Cheng seemed to be in a vast and boundless starry sky. He couldn't tell up from down, left from right, and couldn't see the ends of the world. He carefully approached a star and enlarged it in front of his eyes, allowing the perfect crystal that was constantly refracting light to touch him. In an instant, Lu Cheng felt as if his spirit and body had been frozen. In front of him was a white, lifeless expanse of whiteness. In his ears was the whistling of the icy wind between heaven and earth. Around him was an extremely low temperature that froze the flames and movement. In just 2 or 3 seconds, His spirit was bounced back. He could only see the nebula in his lower abdomen expanding and contracting, dazzling and enchanting. The wonderful feeling just now was deeply engraved in his mind. At this time, Lu Cheng suddenly understood that if he could experience the visualization diagram a few more times, he should be able to grasp the indescribable essence and charm with the help of the feeling just now. He wanted to try immediately, but he was unusually sleepy. His spirit seemed to have become sluggish. The few seconds just now consumed a lot of energy. He had no choice but to open his eyes again and shake his head. If you're too tired, don't try in a hurry. Geezer Shi calmly looked at him and reminded him. Yes, master. Lu Cheng obeyed. He put away his stance and began to run circles around the lake to complete his morning training. I didn't expect the method of perceiving the Jin Dan to actually work. While running, he thought joyfully. He always felt that the conception of the Jin Dan contained many things that were worth exploring. It seemed to hide something that could only be understood. Looking at his back, Geezer Shi smiled slightly and said, Hey, how can you get started with the visualization diagram so quickly? But this little rascal finally has a moment of impatience. Otherwise, this old man would have thought that he was no longer a young man. After the special training on Sunday morning, Lu Cheng didn't leave the martial arts arena with Yan Zheka. Instead, he pulled Kai Zongming and followed the girl and Guoqing in front of him. Cheng, tell us the truth. What did you do wrong? Talker was so witty that he began to interrogate him with a smile. There must be something wrong when things are abnormal. Lu Cheng rolled his eyes at him and said, Her mother is on the way to visit her. So it's your mother-in-law. Xiaoming suddenly realized. Lu Cheng was moved and asked curiously, Hey Talker, have you ever faced a mother-in-law? Kai Zongming clicked his tongue and said, You want to learn from my experience? But I've never seen mother-in-law before. I was stopped by father-in-law once. How did you get blocked? Lu Cheng gossiped and wanted to learn from him. Kai Zongming sighed and said, It was our first love in high school. It was stormy that day. Her mother was on a business trip and her father was working overtime. She was left alone at home and was a little scared. I rushed over to accompany her in the rain. Dry wood is burning hot, But her father was worried about her and specially came back. He saw a strange man's shoes at the door and blocked me in her room. If it weren't for my good skills at that time, I would have been chopped to death by her father. Sigh. Then she transferred to another school, which made me sad for a long time. There was a little fear and regret in his tone. Lu Cheng didn't say anything to hurt him. Instead, he patted his shoulder and said, Casanova, I believe that you have a lot of setbacks in love. After lunch, Lu Cheng went back to the dormitory and went to the school bus station. After a few minutes, Yan Zheka, who was dressed in youthful clothes, also came. But she didn't greet him and just went to the end of the line. Do you feel like you're meeting an underground gang? Lu Cheng took the initiative to send a message with a snicker to show that he was emotionally stable. Yan Zheka lowered her head and replied quickly, If you're an underground gang, you won't survive more than 3 episodes. You keep looking at me. There's such a beautiful and cute girl here. Which guy wouldn't look at her secretly? I'll be found out if I don't look at her, right? Lu Cheng said with a smirk and took the opportunity to compliment her. Because she was worried that they would meet her mother on the school bus, Yan Zheka requested to move separately. They were only a few steps away from each other and chatted on their phones. Time passed quickly and a school bus came. The door opened and passengers got off. My mother is not here. Yan Zheka cheered and said, Save me a seat later. After getting on the bus, they finally didn't have to worry about the seats next to each other. The underground gang finally met. Yan Zheka said with a smile. Lu Cheng didn't say anything and extended his right hand with a smile. Yan Zheka pursed her lips and followed suit with her left hand. In silence, their skin touched and their fingers intertwined again. Looking at this scene fondly, they slowly leaned against each other. After arriving at the old campus, they separated again and took a long detour. They left the school through the small north gate and took a bus to Songqing Ocean Aquarium. Looking at the magnificent entrance, Lu Cheng suddenly felt a little nervous. Because he didn't know the order of the tour was limited to what he found on the internet, and the introduction of marine life he had memorized was messy. If he wasn't familiar with the process, he would definitely forget a lot of it. He held Yen Zhika's hand and walked slowly to the ticket office. While chatting, he quickly recalled the content he had memorized. Starfish after tearing, each piece could become a new starfish. Sea urchins, especially timid. Jellyfish, very beautiful but also very dangerous. Devilfish, looking like a bat in the sea. Angelfish, with tassels, swimming like a dance. Just as he was about to finish a part of his memory, Yen Zhika's phone suddenly rang. She looked at it and quickly made a shu gesture to Lu Cheng. "Mom!" she shouted crisply. A mature female voice came from the other side of the phone. "Ku, you're not in the dormitory?" Hearing Yen Zhika's address, Lu Cheng felt nervous and disappointed. Well, no need to relive it. Chapter 174. Although Yen Zhika was prepared, she was still a little nervous. She hurriedly switched to her coquettish mode and said, "Yes, I'm shopping with Ah Qing." "Mom, why are you asking me this?" "I'm in your dormitory." The mature female voice chuckled. "I wanted to give our little princess a surprise, but I didn't find you." "You're in my dormitory?" Yen Zhika felt that her acting skills had improved in the past 2 days. Her surprised tone was flawless. "You know your mom's character. I'll do whatever I want. What's so strange about that? I'm in Qinyang for a business deal, so I came to see you on the way." "Haha, your roommates are so polite." The mature female voice laughed. "Ku, where are you? I'll come to you directly." Qinyang was the provincial capital of a nearby province. It was only 2 hours away from Songqing by train. "Come here directly?" "Mom, you don't play by the rules." Yen Zhika was shocked. She hurriedly said, "Mom, it's okay. You wait in the dormitory. I'll be right back." The mature female voice said in an understanding tone, "You promised to go shopping with others, but you're leaving them alone. Isn't it bad? I'll come over and treat your classmates to a meal." Yen Zhika couldn't help glancing at Lu Cheng. Although it was bad to leave him alone, it was even worse that her mom treated him to a meal. She was quick-witted and sold out Li Liantong. "Mom, didn't you say you would treat my roommates to a meal? This is a good opportunity. Ah Qing has a classmate with her." "Well, that's good. Come back quickly." The mature female voice thought for a while and said, "Yes, Mom." Yen Zhika said cutely. She almost raised her hand to salute. After hanging up the phone, she exhaled. She felt that it was really a battle of wits and courage. Besides, lying was really troublesome. One lie had to be covered with a pile of lies. If it weren't for this idiot beside her, she wouldn't have bothered. "Then I'll take a taxi?" Lu Cheng calmed down and shook his phone with a smile. Yen Zhika touched her chest and said pitifully, "Go ahead. I need to relax. I was so nervous just now. I was so worried that my mom would insist on coming. If that was the case, where would Guqing appear?" She was still taking an afternoon nap in the dormitory. Seeing the girl like this, Lu Cheng's heart softened. He completely forgot about the disappointment just now. He quickly chose an address and booked a car. Yen Zhika paused for a few seconds and glanced at her boyfriend, whose profile was becoming more and more distinct. She asked cautiously, "Cheng, are you disappointed? Are you a little unhappy?" Lu Cheng felt warm in his heart and said, "Of course, I was a little disappointed because I was looking forward to having a good afternoon with you in the aquarium. But when it comes to such a big event as your mother's arrival, everything else can only be put aside." Speaking of this, he held the girl's soft hand and smiled slightly. "Besides, we still have many weekends in the future. In the future, there will be plenty of opportunities to come here again and make up for this date. To be honest, I feel more sorry for you. You just came here and you have to rush back. If I had known, I would have endured and pushed this matter to next week. There will be many weekends in the future." Yen Zhika rolled her eyes, revealing her dimples. She said lightly, "Why are you blaming yourself? She's my mother, not yours." While they were talking, the online car arrived on time and sent them to the old campus of Songqing University. Lu Cheng and Yen Zhika discussed and decided to take separate cars to avoid bumping into each other because they were worried that their mother-in-law would be waiting at the school bus station in the new campus. Yen Zhika found a seat by the window, holding her backpack and looking at her boyfriend waving outside. She unconsciously showed a smile on her face and slightly pursed her lips. She looked calm. When the school bus started to move, she took out her mobile phone and typed quickly. She sent a striving to be strong emoji and said, "Everything will be fine after this afternoon." Lu Cheng quickly replied with a snicker emoji. At that time, we can loudly sing, "The sky in the liberated area is bright and sunny." Yen Zheka couldn't help but laugh, like a flower in full bloom. The boy next to her almost couldn't move his eyes away. But she didn't pay attention to this at all. Her eyes were only focused on the phone screen. She sent a stunned emoji and said, "Wow, are you talking bad about my mother?" After replying to this message, she found that Li Liantong, Zhong Yenru and Shi Xiangyang had all sent her messages. Although the language was different, the content was basically the same. For example, "Come back quickly, I can't handle it alone. The Empress Dowager is full of aura. I'm trembling in fear. I dare not, I dare not. I dare not talk bad about my mother-in-law." Lu Cheng replied to Yen Zheka's message with a shocked emoji. "Bah, who's your mother-in-law?" Yen Zheka sent a curse emoji. Lu Cheng stood at the waiting area with a smile on his face. He held his mobile phone like an internet addict and kept typing on the screen keyboard. After a while, he felt something in his heart. With his sharp senses, he felt some kind of gaze. He turned his head abruptly and looked in the direction of the strange gaze. He saw a few girls looking at him, whispering to each other and laughing in a low voice. One of them seemed to be pointing the camera of her mobile phone at him. What's going on? Lu Cheng started to have second thoughts. When they noticed that he was looking at them, the girls immediately stopped talking and stood up straight, acting like they were just passers-by. When Lu Cheng turned his head and looked at the school bus that had arrived at the departure point, he heard the uncontrollable laughter from the other side. "What's wrong with my face? What's wrong with my dress?" He was puzzled. While boarding the school bus and finding a good seat, he used his mobile phone screen as a mirror to look at his face. However, he found nothing. When the school bus was full and was about to start, Lu Cheng suddenly thought of a possibility. He opened the browser and logged into the school forum. In the gossip section, he found a new post. "I seem to have met Lu Cheng from the martial arts club." He clicked in and immediately saw himself standing at the waiting area, chatting with a silly smile on his mobile phone. Phew. Lu Cheng exhaled and felt a little complacent. "I'm considered to be quite a celebrity in school." Because of Li Liantong's information, Yen Zheka was not surprised to see her mother waiting for her at the ticket office when she got off the school bus. Her mother wore her hair in a bun and light makeup. She wore a woman's white blouse, a black suit, and a pair of 5-centimeter high heels, which highlighted her capable and mature business style. Her eyes were similar to Yen Zheka's, but her features were not as delicate as her daughter's. Her eyebrows were too sharp, and her nose was not high enough. She looked more heroic and imposing. "Mom, why are you wearing this?" "I was thinking of dressing up like a sister and going around the campus." Yen Zheka smiled and walked up to her. She held her mother's hand and said coquettishly. Then she nodded to the tall woman next to her, who was also dressed in a suit. "Hello, Aunt Lu. I feel that you are getting stronger and stronger." Aunt Lu was her mother's assistant and bodyguard. She was the daughter of her grandfather's eldest disciple, and had a cultivation of professional seventh pin of the dance stage. "Ku is getting better at talking." Lu Xiaolin replied with a smile. Ji Mingyu patted her daughter's hand affectionately and said, "I just finished a business deal and came here from Qinyang. How can I have time to change? Besides, I'm already so old. How can I dress up like a sister?" While talking, she looked at the students who were getting off the school bus. "Of course not, you look like you are in your early 30s with jeans, white sneakers, and a loose sweater," Yen Zheka said with a smile. She held her mother's hand and walked away. Then she snorted and said, "Mom, are you worried about me? So you came here to patrol?" She called yesterday to ask about her boyfriend and came here today. If she pretended not to think about it, she would feel guilty. Ji Mingyu let her daughter take her to the dormitory and laughed. "I'm worried about myself." Ha! Yen Zheka looked at her mother blankly. What did she mean? "You've been like me since you were a child." Ji Mingyu said with a smile. And I lied to your grandparents many times for your father. So I thought that if Micah really likes a boy, she would be willing to lie to us for him. So I thought I might as well come and have a look. If there is such a boy, I should at least know what kind of person he is, right? Yen Zheka felt guilty. Was it true that no one knew her daughter better than her mother? For a moment, she even wanted to tell the truth. But in the end, she decided to be cautious. She planned to take Chung to meet her parents when she was confident. I thought you came because you missed me, she said coquettishly and changed the topic. Ji Mingyu turned to look at her daughter and said with a smile, Ku, you look much better than you did during the spring festival. Of course. I train every day. My body is in good shape. Yen Zheka deliberately clenched her fists and bent her elbows to show her muscles. And I just participated in a challenge tournament last week. I did very well and defeated an opponent of amateur first pin. I didn't tell you before because I wanted to wait for the video to come out so you could see it immediately. After the edited video, there would be no flirting with each other. Ji Mingyu was a little surprised. Then you're going to participate in the next amateur ranking event. Which pin are you going to register for? Second pin. Yen Zheka answered proudly. Ji Mingyu nodded slightly and suggested, the special training of the martial arts club is very helpful for you. Since your cousin is here, why don't I treat all the members to a meal? We can also meet the boy who pretended to be your boyfriend the other day. Yen Zheka was so scared that her heart almost skipped a beat. She hurriedly said, Why do you want to meet him? It's so embarrassing. Empress Dowager is so troublesome. Chapter 175. Ji Mingyu smiled and said, What's there to be embarrassed about? It's not like I'm treating him alone. Since my daughter has troubled him, I'll go and thank him when I treat all the members of the special training group. Is that okay? No problem, no problem. This is a big problem. Yen Zheka felt a headache coming. She racked her brains and said, But we all have activities on the weekend. How can we get together so easily? Besides, Mom, aren't you going to treat my roommates to dinner? Yes, I'll treat your roommates tonight, and invite the members of the martial arts club tomorrow at noon. You'll have just finished your special training, so you can find them. Ji Mingyu looked at her daughter with a smile. Her plan was flawless. As for the accommodation, Songqing was so big that they could find a good hotel. Yen Zheka was speechless for a moment. She felt that she was still too inexperienced in front of her mother. She restrained her panic, depression, and self-abandonment and looked up. Well, I'll mention it to them during the special training tomorrow. If she objected again, her mother would see through her. It was just a meal. What was there to be afraid of? She told Ah Qing, senior sister Lin, and the others to make Cheng act as if nothing had happened. Everything should be fine. After she answered, Lu Xiaolin, who had been silent, suddenly said, Junior uncle, you have plans tomorrow. Qin Yang has to attend the signing ceremony. She was the daughter of Ji Mingyu's big brother, so she called Ji Mingyu Jr. uncle. However, they were only 5 years apart in age, and she was married to a family friend of the Yen family, so Yen Zheka had to call her aunt. Look at my bad memory. Ji Mingyu patted her forehead and said regretfully, Ku, I can't treat the members of the martial arts club to dinner. No need to feel sorry. Yen Zheka exhaled silently. Then she suddenly realized that if she kept finding excuses to stop this, it would most likely become a reality. She would never mention the signing ceremony. Mom, you're so cunning. You can wait until next time. Anyway, I haven't told them yet. Mom, since you're so concerned about my teammates in the martial arts club, do you know anything about our coach? She asked, changing the topic. Cheng had always been curious about this. Ji Mingyu chuckled and said, I asked your grandfather, and he only replied with one sentence. An old guy. This old guy seems to be a master of physical invulnerability of the same generation as Grandpa. But Coach sure doesn't seem to have a good relationship with Grandpa. Yen Zheka thought to herself. She put the previous trick behind her and adjusted her mood. Then she took her mother and Aunt Lu to walk around the campus and chat. Back in the dormitory, Lu Cheng put his phone aside and waited for Yen Zheka's good news. He didn't join Kai Zhongming and Zhao Chong in their game. Instead, he took out his textbook, calmed down, and started to review what he had learned before. The amount of knowledge in each class in university was 10 times more than in high school. It was common for students to finish dozens of pages of teaching materials in a single class. Just by listening in class and doing homework after class, students who were not gifted could only grasp the basic knowledge and pass the exam. Therefore, this placed a higher requirement on students' ability to study independently. If they didn't know how to read by themselves, consolidate their knowledge, spread their knowledge, and search for relevant materials by themselves, their grades would get worse and worse. Lu Cheng was busy with martial arts training. Classes filled up his afternoon and evening, and he only had time to study with Yen Zheka on weekends. He didn't have a good grasp of most of the knowledge. Now that he opened the book, he learned something new from every page. While he was engrossed in studying, the sky turned dark. Suddenly, his phone buzzed and vibrated strongly. A message from Ku? Lu Cheng was delighted and put down the pen in his hand. But he didn't dare to hold too much hope, because similar situations had happened before. They were all spam messages or replies from Jiang Fei and Chen Qili. He picked up his phone and saw the latest message on the screen without unlocking it. Yen Zheka sent a firecracker emoji. I've unlocked it. Mother-in-law's inspection is over? Lu Cheng felt relieved and beamed. He unlocked the screen and replied quickly, Then can I invite my little fairy to take a walk tonight? Yen Zheka stood at the bus stop and watched her mother and Auntie Lu leave the east gate on the bus. She had the urge to burst into tears. How tiring. But Mom left a little too easily, didn't she? She trusted me after probing a little? Or was it because she didn't have many doubts in the first place, and it was just along the way? In doubt and exhaustion, she took out her phone. When she saw the reply, a faint smile bloomed on her face again. She was relaxed and happy again. Okay, but let's wait for another hour. I'm afraid that Queen Mother will come back and catch us by surprise. My little fairy was scared by my mother-in-law. Seeing this message, Lu Cheng felt sorry for her and found it funny. Another hour is just right. I haven't had my dinner yet. The moon hung high above the willows. When it was dark, Lu Cheng waited for Yen Zheka to come out of the dormitory. He immediately went up to her and held her hand, their fingers intertwined tightly. Let's go for a walk by the lake? He suggested with a smile. There were too many people around. Yen Zheka rolled her eyes at him. Her eyes were shining like stars. She pursed her lips and said, You can't be naughty. In the middle of the night. That's how I lost my first kiss. Lu Cheng answered with a straight face. I promise I won't be naughty. How can being intimate with my girlfriend be naughty? Hand in hand, they strolled to the lake. Lu Cheng said with heartache, Were you tired in the afternoon? Was it very tiring to deal with Empress Dowager? Yes. Yen Zheka nodded exaggeratedly. I'm not bragging. If it were you, you would be exposed in 3 minutes. Haha, are you that good? Lu Cheng didn't believe her. Yen Zheka put her right hand in her pocket and counted with her fingers. Empress Dowager is experienced and experienced. Empress Dowager has been in the business world for many years. She has sharp eyes and a strong aura. Empress Dowager is very smart and has one trick after another. She gave birth to me and raised me, so she knows me very well. It's not easy for you. Lu Cheng felt that the girl's action was very cute, but at the same time, he pitied her hard work. Yen Zheka turned her face and looked at Lu Cheng with grievance. That's right. How are you going to comfort me? Lu Cheng stared at her delicate pink lips and said, A kiss? Humph, you're not comforting me. You're taking advantage of me. Yen Zheka said coquettishly. She turned her head and looked to the side. Then she said, Cheng, answer me honestly. Did you do a lot of preparation for the aquarium visit this afternoon? At this time, they were walking further and further away. There was no one around except for the occasional street light. Not too much. Lu Cheng answered modestly. Yen Zheka turned around and looked at him with bright eyes. Can I have a look? Looking at the girl stretching out her hand, Lu Cheng couldn't resist. He handed his phone to her, unlocked the screen and opened the photo library. I just downloaded some pictures and made some notes. How about I set your fingerprint? You can turn on my phone at any time. You don't have to go through so much trouble. Aren't you afraid that I'll find out your secret? Yen Zheka looked at him with a faint smile. I have no secrets in front of you. Lu Cheng said corny words. Yan Zheka smiled and stopped. She looked down at the pictures Lu Cheng had downloaded. 111. She flipped through them for a long time. So many. She whispered to herself and looked up at Lu Cheng. There seemed to be ripples in her eyes. The girl quickly lowered her head again and opened the notebook. It was full of marine life-related notes. They were divided into categories and marked with key points. It was exactly the same as her review notes before the college entrance examination. Yan Zheka didn't speak for a long time and kept looking at the phone. Lu Cheng said nervously, I found them on the internet. It didn't take me much time. The girl's black hair hung down and covered half of her cheeks, but he could still see her sweet dimples. I'm very happy. Ah, what? Lu Cheng was stunned and didn't hear clearly. Yan Zheka looked up and snorted. Forget it if you didn't hear it. Under the streetlight, her eyes were a little red. Lu Cheng was not a fool. He understood her tone and guessed that the girl was moved. He smiled and said, I heard you say you wanted to kiss. Bah! Shameless! Pervert! Yan Zheka spat and looked to the side with a red face. But when Lu Cheng grabbed her hand and pulled her toward him, she immediately fell down softly as if she had lost her bones. Lu Cheng had no experience, but how to chase after beauty was ingrained in his instinct. At this moment, he completely forgot about the surrounding environment and the loss and tension during the day. After a long time, she pushed him away and struggled to get out. Her lips were red and watery with a hint of silver. Then she buried her red face in his shoulder and gasped for air as she said, Pervert, pervert, big pervert. Her right hand gently and continuously beat Lu Cheng's back. Lu Cheng seemed to have forgotten to breathe just now. Now he was gasping for air and was in a good mood. He said in high spirits, If that's the case, all husbands and boyfriends are big perverts. I'm proud of my perverted girlfriend. Humph, I don't care. You're the #1 big pervert. Yan Zheka answered shyly. Suddenly she asked in confusion, What's bothering me? Well. His mind was working quickly to find an excuse. Yan Zheka felt her eyes were burning. She turned her head abruptly and said shyly and angrily, Rogue! I won't play kisses with you anymore. Lu Cheng smiled awkwardly and held the girl in his arms again. He explained seriously, If I didn't have such a reaction, you would be worried. Humph, you're a big pervert anyway. Yan Zheka did not struggle and answered, indignantly. Lu Cheng recovered and was no longer embarrassed. He held the girl in his arms, listened to her coquettishly, smelled her fragrance, and savored the sweetness in her mouth. He wished he could shout loudly to vent his joy. With the arrival of the Empress Dowager, the relationship between the two seemed to be closer in the following week. Lu Cheng was able to successfully lure Yan Zheka into a deep kiss from time to time. He was so happy every day. His cultivation became even more assiduous, and his state of mind was no longer impatient. He calmed down again. After comprehending the frost concept of the Jindan twice, he was only one step away from grasping the essence and charm of the visualization diagram. This was slower than he expected, but it was still within the normal range. In the blink of an eye, it was Saturday morning. After finishing his morning training, he accompanied Yan Zheka and others to the Songqing Martial Arts Club. This was the first annual amateur ranking event. The Songqing Martial Arts Club was very large. It was divided into several halls and surrounded by a circle of shops for the martial artists and spectators. What should I do? I'm a little nervous. Yan Zheka held Lu Cheng's hand and said pitifully. Lu Cheng comforted her. Don't be afraid. The competitors of second pin are all fighters of amateur third pin. You have a big advantage. There was a cafe dozens of meters away from them. From its floor-to-ceiling window, they could see the entrance of the martial arts club. Beside the floor-to-ceiling window, Ji Mingyu in a black business suit was quietly watching the couple holding hands with a cup of coffee. Chapter 176. At the entrance of the Songqing Martial Arts Stadium, Lu Cheng and the others bumped fists and parted ways. Gua Qing had only practiced mountain moving fist for a month, so she didn't dare to register for the amateur third pin competition with Lin Hua. Instead, she, Li Xiaofan, Jiang Fuxing and Wu Meng went to the number 3 hall, where the ranking event of amateur 4th pin was held. Sun Jian and Li Mao set their sights on the amateur 2nd pin, so they went to the number 2 hall with Yan Zheka, who was a little riskier to register for the amateur 2nd pin. Kai Zhongming didn't come this time. Lu Cheng picked up the foundation he had left behind and didn't have any hope of improving his rank. Hall number 2 was about the same size as Songqing University's martial arts stadium. Most of the people coming and going were fighters and friends. There were no real audience. Even so, according to Lu Cheng's observation, there were at least thousands of people here. After waiting in line to get her group and match arrangement, Yan Zheka wrinkled her delicate nose and showed her sweet dimples. Not bad. Only 5 fighters. The number of fighters of amateur 2nd pin had been announced on the official website. There were 439 fighters in Songqing. Usually, most fighters of amateur ranking event were of 9th pin and 8th pin. Most of the fighters in the hundreds of martial arts clubs and gyms in and around Songqing were aiming for these 2 ranks. For them, most of them had their own jobs or were still in middle school or high school, so the time they had to train was quite limited. If they didn't have any talent, they would spend their entire lives strengthening their bodies, maintaining their figure, and being proficient in martial arts. If they were able to obtain the 2 grades of entry, they would be able to brag about it to their friends and family. At critical moments, they could even use it to scare thieves and hooligans, like heroes protecting beauties. Because of this, the ranking event for these 2 ranks was not held in the Songqing Martial Arts Stadium. Instead, it was held in different areas of the county and some schools, so that the quota would be distributed to different people. Although there were a lot of fighters of amateur 8th pin, not many of them had the confidence to sign up for amateur 7th pin. The number of fighters started to drop sharply. From rank 7 to rank 4, it was very difficult for a martial artist who did not persevere in training or have some talent to stand out. The gym could no longer help students reach this level. Only the most elite students in every martial arts dojo had the ambition to make a breakthrough. Kai Zhongming belonged to this category. He had some talent, but he did not put in enough effort. These 4 levels of competition were held in Hall 3 and Hall 4 respectively. Logically speaking, there should be fewer applicants for rank 4 and above. After all, only martial artists with a little talent who insisted on daily training were qualified to set their sights on this. In most of the martial arts dojos, they could already be listed as disciples. However, this was not the case in reality, because the martial artists who were initially distributed to various martial arts schools and were accepted as disciples by various sects and forces would participate from this stage onwards. Among them, the most outstanding few aimed to enter the Dan stage and reach professional 8th pin. Those who could be considered outstanding would be professional 9th pin at the beginning. Those who were above average would aim for amateur 1st pin. Those who were below average would aim for amateur 2nd pin. Those who were not outstanding would at least aim for amateur 3rd pin. Every year, many students from several martial arts schools in Songqing participated in this event, and the number of applicants for the amateur 3rd pin had skyrocketed. However, they would not affect the local martial arts environment too much. Usually, after graduation, they would go where they wanted to go. Some would join the army, some would join the police force, some would become employees of the security companies affiliated with the major forces, and so on. The number of applicants for 439 amateur 2nd pin was slightly higher than in previous years, but it was still within a reasonable range. However, compared to the number of amateur 3rd pin fighters, it was still a small part. After all, after reaching amateur 3rd pin, some would age and their physical condition would begin to deteriorate. Some would be satisfied and stop pursuing further progress. Some would have their training time greatly reduced due to job changes or university graduation. It was not easy for them to maintain their original level. Some might feel that they were still lacking and wait for the future. The quota for the ranking event this time was 40 people of amateur 2nd pin, which was less than 10%. They were divided into 80 groups, with 5 or 6 people in each group. They would compete in a single cycle. If there were 2 people with the same record, they would compete against each other. If there were 3 people with the same record, they would start all over again. After the competition, the 80 fighters would draw lots to fight. The loser would be eliminated and the winner would be determined as amateur 2nd pin. In other words, a fighter would have to fight at least 5 matches to be determined. Moreover, all the matches would be held on weekends, which was also a great test of physical strength. Lu Cheng took the paper from his girlfriend's hand and read it carefully. He smiled and said, "Chen Jun from Songhua Martial Arts School. This was Yen Zhika's opponent this morning. After that, she would fight at 3:00 p.m., 7:00 p.m., and the next morning. If there was one, she could draw lots in the afternoon for the knockout match to determine her level. The knockout match didn't have to start after all the groups had fought. It could start as long as there were more than 20 groups. Chen Jun was an amateur third pin fighter. He hadn't participated in any preliminaries and had only participated in some amateur challenge tournaments. It was difficult to find his fighting videos on the internet. However, after knowing that he was a disciple of Songyue Martial Arts School, Lu Cheng could naturally find videos of his martial arts skills to give Yen Zhika a direct impression. Yen Zhika smiled while watching her boyfriend busy himself. She was also searching for videos. They leaned against the edge of the stands and whispered to each other, seizing the time to analyze the characteristics of those martial arts skills. Sun Jian and Li Mao, who could only study by themselves, were very envious. At 9:00 p.m., the group of friends and relatives retreated to the upper stands so that the organizer could better maintain order. The situation of the venue was similar to that of the Warrior Sage Challenge tournament. There were 4 standard arenas around the center. Lu Cheng knew that his girlfriend's match would start at 10:00 p.m. Seeing her sitting down at the edge of the arena, he sent a smiley emoji and said, "Don't think too much. Let's continue to discuss your opponent's martial arts skills. But first, I'll buy you some fruits and energy drinks." He was quite confident in Yen Zhika's martial arts level since he had been her training partner every day. "Good, very careful. I'll give you a like," Yen Zhika said with a smirk. After exiting hall number 2, Lu Cheng chatted with the girl while he found a nearby fruit shop. He bought a lot of things and finally found a small supermarket to stock up on a few energy drinks. Even though it was a given that he valued his girlfriend over his friends, he couldn't be too obvious about it. He still had to prepare some for Senior Sun Jian and the others. Carrying these things, Lu Cheng walked back to the second hall with light steps. He chose a position where he could see Yen Zhika from the best angle. He saw that many men around her were secretly looking at her, but she was focused on replying to his messages without any distractions. Soon, it was 10:00 p.m. Yen Zhika stood up and walked to the corresponding arena. Her beauty, figure, and temperament attracted enough attention. "Hee, such a good girl is mine." Lu Cheng looked at this scene with a little complacency and happiness. At this moment, he saw 2 figures walking towards him from the corner of his eyes. One stopped not far away, and the other was still approaching. There was no hidden meaning in his words. Subconsciously, he sized him up. With this look, his heart suddenly thumped, and he had a bad premonition. It was a woman who looked less than 40 years old. Her hair was tied up in a bun. She had an elegant temperament and delicate facial features. She looked like she came from Jiangnan, but her eyebrows were relatively sharp, which made her look more heroic. But this was not the point. The point was that Lu Cheng vaguely felt that she looked a little like his girlfriend. Could it be so coincidental? Didn't she already patrol? Didn't she go back long ago? While Lu Cheng was guessing in panic, a mature woman in a black business suit stopped in front of him and smiled. "Are you Lu Cheng?" "Ah, yes." Lu Cheng told himself to calm down. Ji Mingyu smiled faintly and straightforwardly introduced herself. "Hello, I'm Ke's mother." There was a loud boom. Lu Cheng felt that his brain was going to explode. She is really the Empress Dowager. She really came back to kill me. And she came back after Ku and I thought everything was over. Calm down. Calm down. She didn't catch Ku and me. Lu Cheng took a deep breath and glanced at Yen Zhika, who was in the middle of the conversation. He hurriedly stood up and said with a smile, "Hello, Auntie. Judging from your reaction, you are indeed Micah's boyfriend." Ji Mingyu chuckled. Lu Cheng was dumbfounded. He finally understood why Yen Zhika said he would be exposed in 3 minutes in front of her mother. Am I acting too nervous? In fact, no matter how calm you look, I can be sure that I saw you and Ku come in hand, Ji Mingyu said with a smile. She sat next to Lu Cheng and looked at her daughter in the arena. Lu Cheng stayed there, not knowing whether to stand or sit. He was under a lot of pressure. She was so domineering. Is she here to ask me to break up with Ku? Should I learn from the TV series and say things like, "We are true love. Money will only insult me. Don't bully the poor," and life is full of ups and downs? Sit down. Ji Mingyu sighed slightly. To be honest, when I found that Ke kept lying to me for you, I wanted to tell you to get out of here as far as possible. But when I thought about my past, I was worse than you. So I calmed down and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Only when I become a mother can I understand my mother's feelings. While talking, she kept looking at Yen Zheka in the arena and didn't turn her head. Lu Cheng took a deep breath and sat down with the mentality that he would be stabbed no matter what. He said seriously, "Auntie, you must have something to say to me today, right?" Ji Mingyu finally looked at him and said self-mockingly, Don't worry. I'm not here to force you two apart. 'Cause temper has been like mine since she was a child. She looks delicate and weak, but she's very stubborn. Forcing her will only push her towards you. I was able to abandon everything and run to Xiaofan. She can do the same. I won't give you a lot of money and ask you to quit, although your family is not rich. Lu Cheng, I'm sorry, but I hope you can understand a mother's protective mentality after knowing that her daughter has a boyfriend. I have to investigate your situation. Empress Dowager is so scary. Lu Cheng suddenly understood Yen Zheka's feelings. He said sincerely, I understand your feelings. Ji Mingyu nodded slightly. Very good. Although your family is not rich, you have great potential. Your martial arts strength has improved by leaps and bounds recently. Coupled with your current age, you will definitely feel that you have a bright future ahead of you. Money paper you can earn more in the future. So, I don't think money can be used against you. I won't set a goal for you to marry Ku. In the future, Ku will only become more and more outstanding. If you can't catch up with her, you'll feel inferior and quit on your own accord. Lu Cheng gradually calmed down as he listened. Doubts arose in his mind. Auntie, what do you want to tell me? And Auntie, didn't you just find out that we are dating today? How did you find out so clearly? Chapter 177. Ji Mingyu turned back and looked at Yen Zheka, who was about to start the competition. Her dimples appeared on her cheeks. Ku was in poor health when she was young, so she was spoiled. Unlike me, I was used to being wild with my senior brothers and sisters and learned to lie. When she mentioned that you and her cousin had defeated an 8th pin dan stage fighter by taking turns, she didn't say much, but she couldn't hide the pride, and happiness in her voice. It was even more obvious than when she got the highest score in the exam. My heart skipped a beat. Oh no, my daughter really has a boyfriend. So that's how I got exposed at the beginning. Lu Cheng was suddenly enlightened and didn't feel depressed. Instead, he felt a kind of sweetness that made him want to laugh out loud. Knowing Yen Zheka's attitude and tone when she talked about him from bystanders made him more certain about her feelings for him, making him feel satisfied and happy. With my beloved girl on my side, no matter how terrible my mother-in-law and father-in-law are, I won't be afraid. It's a pity that I didn't see Ku's face and hear her tone. With these key points, if I still can't find out your information, then I've lived half of my life in vain. Ji Mingyu said calmly, I'm here today to give you 2 wishes as Ku's mother, not demands. Auntie, please go ahead. Lu Cheng saw that Empress Dowager didn't want to force him and Yen Zheka apart, so he regained his usual calmness, but he was still in awe. The fact that Empress Dowager gave birth to Ku, raised her, and loved her was worthy of his respect. Ji Mingyu turned her head and looked at Lu Cheng with a smile. First, before you're sure that you can shoulder Ku's life, don't go too far. Can you do that? Don't go too far. Lu Cheng almost didn't understand the meaning of these 4 words. After thinking for a while, he realized, Mother-in-law, you're too subtle. I'm not an irresponsible person. I'll work hard to improve myself for Ku, and I won't hurt her. Lu Cheng replied to his mother-in-law in a more tactful way. Ji Mingyu nodded. Secondly, I know that when 2 people are together, no matter how much they love each other in the past, they still need to make certain sacrifices in order to complete the run-in. But I hope that you won't let Ku sacrifice her own dreams and her own brilliance for you. Believe me, true love can withstand the test of time and distance. A test of time and distance? Ku's dream and brilliance? Lu Cheng was a little confused and didn't quite understand what she meant, but he still said sincerely, Auntie, if it's really Ku's dream, I can only support it with both hands. All right, Remember what you said today. Ji Mingyu stood up slowly and commented, "It won't be a big problem for Ku to win this game. Okay, I'll leave first. Don't tell Ku that I came." Yes. Suppressed by Empress Dowager's aura, Lu Cheng couldn't find any words to say. He could only watch her leave maturely and gracefully. She joined another woman and walked out of hall number 2 along the aisle of the stands. What kind of dream would Ka have? I don't think I've ever asked. Lu Cheng retracted his gaze. Seeing Yen Zheka suppressing Chen Jun and using 24 blizzard strikes, he felt a little confused and inexplicable fear. Outside the Songqing Martial Arts Stadium, Ji Mingyu stopped at the entrance. She looked back and sighed softly. "Junior uncle, this was not your original plan." Lu Xiaolin's senses were far better than ordinary people. Although she was not close, she heard the general idea. Ji Mingyu laughed at herself and said, "When I saw Ku and that guy walking hand in hand and thinking of her fearful yet stubborn face, I remembered the past and my heart softened." That year, Xiaofan train station had been in disrepair for a long time and was in tatters. That year, there was a young girl who came from Jiangnan with only a bag of luggage. When she saw the man she was destined to meet at the station, she didn't cry, nor did she feel wronged. She smiled sweetly and announced, "I only have you." Memories kept flashing in her mind. Ji Mingyu's expression softened. She suddenly felt homesick, so she walked to the parking lot and said, "Xiaolin, don't tell anyone about this, including your husband. If Ku's father and her grandparents know about this, they will turn the sky upside down." "Don't worry, junior uncle. I know what to do." Lu Xiaolin, who was walking beside Ji Mingyu, answered with a smile. "That's right." Back then, the old man and old lady doted on their youngest daughter the most. In the end, they were angered and hurt badly. Later on, they projected their feelings onto their more obedient and pitiful granddaughter. If they knew that their precious daughter had been abducted by a wild man when she had just entered university, it was simply unimaginable what would happen. After getting the competition list, Chen Jun also looked up Yen Zheka's information. From his friends in the martial arts circle in Songqing, he knew that the girl had achieved a small success in meditation, was good at listening skill, could forcibly pull the center of gravity, and had mastered 24 blizzard strikes. Therefore, he was well prepared and prepared. But his strength was average. He was not used to changing his fighting style at the last minute in order to avoid Yen Zheka's listening skill. He kept exposing all kinds of problems. Besides, he had to divert his attention to guard against Yen Zheka's forcibly pulling the center of gravity, which made him even more restrained. Before long, he was suppressed by 24 blizzard strikes. After only half a round, he couldn't hold on. Thanks to the help of the referee, he avoided being injured and fell off the ring. After this round, Yen Zheka was much more assured and had a clearer understanding of her strength. She was indeed qualified to reach the level of amateur second pin. The girl was overjoyed. She turned her head to look at the stands, looking for Lu Cheng. When she found that familiar guy and made eye contact with him, for some reason, she felt relieved. She smiled widely and waved her fist. Looking at Yen Zheka's bright smile, Lu Cheng was both happy and absent-minded. It was like heaven and hell when he faced Empress Dowager's aura just now. Empress Dowager acquiesced to my relationship with Ku? Just a wish, not a request? In an instant, he came back to his senses. He felt so excited that his whole body was trembling. Ecstasy surged from the bottom of his heart. Although he didn't know why his mother-in-law had acquiesced, at least he had achieved the initial success and had a good start. "I am Ku's above-board boyfriend." He waved his fist in excitement. Yen Zheka tilted her head and was puzzled. Why is Cheng happier and more excited than me? This is only the first round of the ranking event. Whatever, as long as he is happy. And he seems to be happy from the bottom of his heart. He can't help it. Hee. Yen Zheka left the ring, checked with the competition supervisor and took back her phone. She walked along the aisle and walked briskly to Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng had already walked up to her and wanted to give her a big hug. Yen Zheka looked around shyly at her boyfriend's open arms. After confirming that no one was watching, she bit her lip and walked quickly to him, letting him hug her. "Why are you so happy?" Yen Zheka held back her laughter and asked in a low voice. Lu Cheng had a lot to say and many things he longed to know. But considering that his girlfriend had matches in the afternoon and evening, he forced himself to hold back. I'm just happy that you have a good start. Yen Zhika laughed and broke free. She flipped her loose hair and looked around guiltily. Then she looked at her boyfriend suspiciously and said, "Why do I feel that your smile is not normal? Is this a girl's intuition?" Lu Qing laughed and said, "What's not normal? Let's sit over there and wait for Sun Jian and Senior Li Mao." Okay. Yen Zhaka was in a good mood and didn't think too much about her boyfriend's behavior just now. She sat down, took the unscrewed energy drink, and sipped to replenish her water. With her physical strength, even if she only played half of 24 blizzard strikes, it was inevitable that she would be sweating. Because of the perfect timing, they didn't have to wait for long before Sun Jian and Li Mao finished their matches and won their first match. After that, Sun Jian went to wait for Lin Hua. Lu Cheng and the others met up with Guo Qing, who had already finished her match. They walked to an express hotel 15 minutes away. Songqing University's new campus was too far away from Songqing Martial Arts Club, so it was troublesome to go back and forth. According to the usual practice, they booked rooms in advance for each match to rest and recover as much as possible. Of course, if they had enough time after the third match in the evening, they would still take the last school bus back to the dormitory. Lu Cheng ran back and forth and busied himself for a while. Finally, Sun Jian, Li Mao, Jiang Fuxing, Wu Meng, Lin Hua, Li Xiaowen, Yen Zheka, Guo Qing, and himself checked in. However, after taking the room card, he lured Yen Zheka to his room with the excuse that he wanted to discuss the match in the afternoon with her. "You're not going to do anything bad, are you?" Standing at the door, Yen Zheka suddenly felt a little timid and bit her lower lip. This was probably the first time she had opened a room with a boy. Lu Qing laughed and said, "Am I such a pervert in your eyes?" "Yes," Yen Zheka answered crisply without hesitation. After that, her dimples appeared and she was very charming. Lu Cheng was speechless for a moment and had to tell the truth. "You have a match in the afternoon. How dare I do anything bad? I just learned a new skill and thought it would come in handy today." "What new skill?" Yen Zheka rolled her eyes and was full of curiosity. Lu Cheng swiped the card and opened the door. He said with a smile, "It's a massage skill to help you quickly relieve your fatigue." "Really?" Yen Zheka said with a face of, "I don't believe it." "You'll know after you try it. It can also be used with the ointment to remove your bruises and swelling. You won't have any hidden injuries left after continuous matches," Lu Cheng said seriously while inserting the room card into the socket. Looking at her boyfriend's serious face, Yen Zheka nodded slightly and smiled. "Then I'll believe you this time." While talking, she walked in and looked around curiously. It seemed that she had never stayed in such an express hotel before. Clang! Lu Cheng closed the door and blocked out the noise outside. "You sit by the bed and I'll massage you," he suggested with a smile. Yen Zheka rolled her eyes at him. "You're sweating all over. You don't think it smells, but I think it's dirty. Take a shower first and then try your new skill." Besides, she had to apply the ointment after the shower. After saying that, she took the bag from Lu Cheng without any vigilance, just like in the locker room during the match. But when she bent down to take off her martial arts shoes, she suddenly froze. She seemed to have thought of something and her pretty face turned red. Then she rushed into the bathroom with her slippers and other things. She closed the door firmly and locked it with a click. "What's wrong?" Lu Cheng was a little confused and sat by the bed casually. After a few minutes, the sound of the shower came from the bathroom. It was soft and dense, echoing in his ears. Lu Cheng didn't feel anything at first, but as he listened, he suddenly found that the surroundings were unusually quiet, completely different from the locker room in the past. "In this room there's only me and Ku." This realization suddenly flashed in his mind, giving birth to an inexplicable feeling in his heart. He felt that the sound of the water seemed to be knocking on his heart and evoking something called ambiguity. A man and a woman alone in a room. He took a deep breath and told himself that Yen Zheka had a match in the afternoon, and it was a very important ranking event. He couldn't disturb her state of mind. The water condensed into ice, and the ice melted again. Lu Cheng felt like he was sitting on pins and needles, sometimes restless and sometimes calm. When the sound of the shower stopped abruptly, he exhaled silently, as if he had just finished a challenge tournament. After a short while, Yen Zheka opened the door and came out. She was still wearing the white martial arts suit of Songqing University with black edges. Her hair was loosely tied up with a cowhide band, and her neck was white and slender. Her facial features were more and more beautiful at this time. Her exposed skin was moist and tender, as if it could be broken by a blow. Lu Cheng looked like he was struck by lightning. He stared at her blankly, and gradually his mouth and tongue became dry. "What are you looking at?" Yen Zheka's face turned red as soon as she met Lu Cheng's eyes. She hummed shyly and then she said with a little fear, I'd better go to Qing first. I always feel that Cheng will turn into a pervert if he howls. Why did I follow him in so stupidly?" Lu Cheng took a deep breath and smelled the fragrance of the girl after the shower. He quickly condensed the water into ice and said earnestly, "Trust me, I'm really just giving you a massage to relax. How can I bear to disturb the ranking event that you've been looking forward to for so long?" Looking at his sincere expression, Yen Zheka bit her lower lip and said, "Okay, I believe you." Speaking of this, she raised her eyes, which seemed to be a little misty, and looked at Lu Cheng timidly. "Don't let me down." "Of course not. Look at my righteous face." Lu Cheng deliberately made a joke to ease the girl's uneasiness. "Silly face." Yen Zheka cursed with a smile. She put down the martial arts shoes and other things in her hands and sat beside Lu Cheng. She looked at her feet shyly and uneasily and said, "Let's start." "Okay." Lu Cheng first took out the ointment and put it aside, waiting to be used. Then he let the girl turn her body sideways, and then he knelt on one leg on the edge of the bed and stretched out his hands to press her shoulders. After a few times, Yen Zheka was a little happy and a little surprised. "Cheng, when did you learn to do this? You're quite good at it." Lu Cheng laughed and said, "Didn't you say before that when I mastered the skill of massage, you would let me help you with physical therapy to relax? I've always kept it in mind, watched a lot of videos, and looked up a lot of information. With my insight and understanding of the body, how could they hide from me with their little tricks? I learned it quickly." "You still remember it?" Yen Zheka pursed her lips and looked in front of her, her deep dimples showing sweetness. "But, you're usually so busy. How can you have time to look at this? You also collected so much information about marine life." "I still have time to squeeze." Lu Cheng's hands moved down and pressed the girl's back muscles. He answered with a smile, "There are some non-professional courses that I don't need to listen to, but I don't dare to skip them, so I can do these things. But it's a little wasteful. In the university, there were many similar courses." Lu Cheng always suspected that these courses were specially prepared for the students to relax. Compared to them, the elective courses that were chosen based on one's interest made him more eager to listen carefully. No wonder a senior brother once said that he would always choose to skip elective courses and skip compulsory courses. Yen Zheka narrowed her eyes and said, "I use these courses to review the professional courses and read the extended literature." "Good student," Lu Cheng praised. Like a child expecting praise, he asked, "Is it comfortable? Do you want it more or less?" "It's okay," Yen Zheka answered reservedly. "A little more." Feeling her satisfaction, the smile on Lu Cheng's face grew wider. Together with the application of the ointment, he began to massage the muscles of the girl's arms and legs to relax the remaining tension after the explosion. After the familiarization just now, Yen Zheka was more and more satisfied with his skills. Gradually, she closed her eyes and concentrated on enjoying. After a while of physical therapy, Lu Cheng was too embarrassed to ask his girlfriend to lie down, so he squatted down and massaged her ankle. He glanced around and saw a bruise on the back of her foot where her slippers were exposed. He applied the ointment and rubbed it away with a moderate amount of strength. Because part of the bruise was blocked by the slippers, he raised his head and wanted to ask Yen Zheka to lift her foot and take off her shoes. But when he saw the girl closed her eyes and enjoyed it, he felt that there was no need to ask. Since she asked him to massage it, she would definitely not object. Lu Cheng held her delicate ankle and lifted it gently. Yen Zheka instinctively struggled for a while and then relaxed. Her eyelashes trembled slightly and her cheeks blushed unconsciously. After taking off her shoes, Lu Cheng suddenly stopped breathing. He saw the girl's small feet, delicate toes, jade-like skin, and fleshy instep, which didn't match her elegant appearance, but was also quite cute. Lu Cheng didn't know when it started, but he felt that his breath became heavier and his kneading action became more like caressing. He felt that this couldn't work, so he quickly raised his head and looked away, only to see Yan Zheka's bulging chest. Lu Cheng's blood seemed to be rushing. His mouth was dry and his tongue was restless. He pressed the acupoint on her foot harder, which made her involuntarily let out a low moan. Lu Cheng's heart beat faster when he heard the moan. When he was about to do something, Yan Zheka opened her eyes and asked innocently and confusedly, "Cheng, what's wrong with you? Why did you press so hard?" Lu Cheng took a deep breath and remembered that today was the day of the ranking event. He hurriedly said, "I'm going to wash my face with cold water." Yan Zheka was at a loss at first, but then she saw Lu Cheng run to the bathroom with his back hunched. She suddenly realized what he was doing and blushed. "You big pervert." She lay down on her side, grabbed a pillow and buried her face in it. Her voice was shy and happy, but when she remembered Lu Cheng's appearance just now, she couldn't help but chuckle, feeling sweet and touched. "I wonder how it feels to wash my face with cold water. If it's not enough, will he take a cold shower?" She thought shyly and naughtily. Lu Cheng was splashing cold water on his face to sober up the burning heat. He felt that he had just experienced another battle between heaven and earth. What a wonderful and painful experience. When he calmed down and returned to the room, Yan Zheka was already tired. She wrapped herself in the quilt and said, "Cheng, I'm going to sleep for a while. Wake me up at 11:30 for dinner." "Okay, we'll talk about the competition in the afternoon after dinner." Lu Cheng walked to her side and said. Yan Zheka turned over and said coquettishly, "Rub my temples for me until I fall asleep." "Okay." Lu Cheng accepted the task happily and reached out to rub her temples. After a while, he heard Yan Zheka's steady breathing and saw that she was sleeping peacefully. His mood softened and he forgot about the wild thoughts just now. He just looked at his beloved girl for a long time. Lu Cheng took the time to find the information. Instead of waking Yan Zheka up, he went downstairs to buy some food and brought it back. He seduced her nose with a fragrance and made her slowly open her eyes. Yan Zheka's black hair covered both sides of her face. Her face was white and delicate, and her dark and lively eyes were still a little confused after waking up. Lu Cheng stared at her in a daze and felt that he would never forget this picture. Yan Zheka won the competition in the afternoon and evening because she was well prepared and strong enough. Lu Cheng, on the other hand, experienced the torture of ice and fire in the afternoon when he was massaging her in the afternoon. At 8 o'clock in the evening, the martial arts club returned to the old campus. Guaqing, Li Mao, and the others were quite excited because they also won all the matches. Sun Jian, however, was a little depressed because he met a strong opponent in the group and lost the previous match. Since then, the hope of qualifying was very slim. "It's just bad luck. We can try again in June." Everyone comforted him. After walking for a while, Yan Zheka slowed down and said pitifully in Lu Cheng's ear, "I used too much strength in the last match. My muscles are a little sore." Lu Cheng looked around and suggested with a smile, "How about I carry you on my back?" "It's too embarrassing." Yan Zheka refused immediately. "What are you afraid of? Let's walk slowly and take a detour. You can bury your face in my shoulder later. Then no one will recognize you and you won't feel embarrassed." Lu Cheng said half-jokingly. Yan Zheka burst out laughing, "You're making me sound like an ostrich." Under Lu Cheng's persuasion, she finally agreed. They walked slower and slower until they completely fell behind. "Come on up." Lu Cheng squatted down and said with a smile. Yan Zheka put her hands on his shoulders and let him hook her legs and carry her on his back. "So light." Lu Cheng chuckled. At this time, the sky was dark and the night wind was cool. The faint fragrance of flowers floated around. It was quiet and peaceful. Yan Zheka didn't say anything. Her cheeks were rosy and her dimples were shallow. Lu Cheng saw that no one was around and took a deep breath. "Ku, your mother came to see me today during your match." "What?" Yan Zheka was confused and doubted that she had heard it wrong. Lu Cheng didn't turn around. He smiled and said, "She confirmed that we were dating, but she didn't seem to object." Although his mother-in-law had asked him not to tell Ku, he was very clear about who would be his future family and who would be the most important one. "My mother? Did she come back?" Yan Zheka didn't realize until now. She was confused, shocked, and puzzled. Lu Cheng told her in detail what they had talked about, and finally asked the question that he wanted to know the most. Ku, what's your dream? Chapter 178. After listening to Lu Cheng's story, Yan Zheka wondered if she was really proud and happy when she mentioned her boyfriend. At the same time, she wanted to exclaim that Tai Xueran was so powerful that ordinary people like her couldn't compare with him. But the last question made her fall silent. Under the illumination of the street lamps, she rested her hands on his shoulders. Her eyes peered over his sideburns, looking at half of his face from a different angle than usual. She could feel the steady but anxious footsteps beneath her. She pursed her lips and said, "You're too young. My biggest dream is, of course, to make up for the shortcomings of my body and continue to walk on the path of martial arts. Even if I may not be able to go very far, I will be very, very happy with every step forward. However, with the current medical development, there is no hope for this. Moreover, it has been more than 10 years, and I have accepted this reality. It does not affect my daily life. My mom is talking about another thing. I used to think that I had a talent for numbers and logic and could see through the rules of things at a glance. Humph, don't laugh. I was so innocent back then. Now I have been led astray by you. Therefore, I often tell my mother that I can definitely inherit your company. It's a piece of cake. But I don't like to deal with all kinds of strangers, I don't like to fight and scheme, I don't like to run around everywhere. So I want to learn mathematics, economics, trade, and finance. I want to be a strategist, hiding behind the scenes and strategizing. I applied to Songqing University because I wanted to keep an eye on my brother in case something happened to him. Also, our school and Yvonne University in the United States have a joint training program. When I am in my senior year, I can go there to study under the top scholars in the world after passing the assessment. It will take about 3 to 5 years. The night breeze was cool. The girl's voice drilled into Lu Cheng's ears and made him a little absent-minded. Is this the test of time and distance? Little Ming already has a hard time in a long-distance relationship, let alone in a foreign country. He took a breath and asked seriously and nervously, "Will you come back?" Yan Zheka burst into laughter and answered firmly, "Of course I will. My relatives and friends are here. The culture and history that are deeply ingrained in my bones are here. All my favorite food is here. The boy I like is here too." Towards the end of her sentence, her voice became softer and softer until it was as soft as a mosquito's buzzing, but she still insisted on saying it. Fortunately, she was on Orange's back and didn't have to face him. He wouldn't see her embarrassed expression. "The boy I like is also here." A smile appeared on Lu Cheng's face. He let out a long sigh and said, "Then go. Go and pursue your dreams. Let me see the more brilliant and beautiful you." Cheng, have you been scared silly by my mom? Even your words have become more cultured. Yan Zheka chuckled and put her hands around his shoulders, clasping them in front of him. "Aren't you worried?" she asked in an uncertain tone. "Yes. My little fairy is so pretty, so cute, so smart, and so beautiful. I don't know how many men have bad intentions towards her." Yan Zheka pursed her lips and smiled. She thought for a while and said, "I'm quite confident in myself. There were many good boys who pursued me before, but I still cruelly rejected them all. I know what I want so I can persevere. You can say that I'm very rational, but you can also say that I'm very hard-hearted. But you, Cheng, you have so many fans now. When you step into the dance stage and enter the professional martial arts circle in the future, there will definitely be more girls who like you and even seduce you. Without me watching over you, I really don't know if you can reject them. My mom always says that not many men can withstand this kind of test." Lu Cheng didn't look back. He smiled and said, "I'm confident in myself. If I can persist in training every day, I can also persist in keeping a distance from other girls. I'm going to become a mighty one with physical invulnerability. How can I not have some extraordinary perseverance?" "Cheng, your words remind me of a term in a novel." Yan Zheka was silent for a few seconds. She suddenly laughed and said, "Ascetic boy." "What kind of term is that?" Lu Cheng didn't think too much about the term and said, "Actually, it's not a big deal to be in a foreign relationship. In the age of the internet, communication is so convenient. As long as you coordinate your time, you can still chat every day. Besides, I should be a powerful dance stage fighter by then. I can definitely afford to fly once a month. But I'm a little sad that you're alone outside and can't find anyone to help you. Yen Zhika's eyes turned dark and bright. She replied with a smile, I'll definitely be a tough girl of professional ninth pin by then. What can't I solve by myself? Well, when I'm there, I'll focus on my studies. I'll wear a pair of big black-rimmed glasses and dress like a nun. I won't attend any parties and will be immune to all harassment. I'll try to come back in 3 years. Won't you become Abbess Miju? Lu Cheng was happy to hear that. He reminded her worriedly, You must be careful of those men who try to get close to you by pretending to be your fellow countrymen. Yen Zhika immediately laughed and raised her head. Are you talking about yourself? You must learn from the mistakes of others. Lu Cheng said half seriously and half self-deprecatingly. Yen Zhika was infected by his optimism. Her melancholy melted away. She looked at the back of his head with a smile and suddenly remembered a sentence. I was young then. I didn't understand the ruthlessness of time and the cruelty of distance. The reason why I didn't tell Cheng that I was going abroad was that after falling in love, I was hesitant and scared. I wasn't as decisive as before. I really considered whether I should give up or not. But when I thought of doing something I didn't like in the future, or only having him as the center of my life, I felt that it was too sad. If I don't chase my dream while I'm young and still have the drive, I'll definitely regret it in the future. Sigh, it's true that a hero's temper is short because of love. Well, I'm that hero. Yen Zhika's arms around Lu Cheng's neck tightened. She leaned over and whispered in Lu Cheng's ear, You're femme fatale. Ah? Lu Cheng was dumbfounded. What was this all about? Yen Zhika thought about it seriously and then repeated, You're a femme fatale. Lu Cheng didn't understand until now. He laughed and changed the topic. Ku, even Empress Dowager has acknowledged me. Does that mean we're dating openly? Of course not. You just passed my mom. There's still my dad, my grandpa, my grandma, my grandpa, and so on. The revolution hasn't succeeded yet. Comrade, you still need to work hard. No way. I thought Empress Dowager was the most difficult one. Who gave you such an illusion? I always thought my mom would be the most accepting one. Their laughter floated in the wind and scattered on the road at night. Lu Cheng carried the girl to the school bus stop. He was reluctant to put her down and wanted to keep walking like this. There were still 3 years left. There would be a way when the time came. The next morning, Lu Cheng seemed to have matured a little. He stood there and calmly comprehended the 2 visualization diagrams. This was the only thing he could rely on to settle down and protect his love. After a short while, he closed his eyes and concentrated his spirit and chi. He outlined the freezing sky and freezing ground diagram in his mind bit by bit. It was no different from the previous days. During this process, he gradually merged the frost concept of the Jindan that was engraved in his heart with the brushstrokes, making each snowflake seem to have a life of its own, bringing a distinct coldness to the empty world. 1, 2, 3. The world slowly turned white. A chill that could freeze everything and bury life was about to come out. Lu Cheng's spirit was already tired. At this moment, he suddenly realized that he had finally reached the edge of success after several days of accumulation and comprehension. He endured the emptiness and sketched the last stroke. With a boom, the freezing sky and freezing ground diagram suddenly expanded and occupied every corner of his mind. The bone-chilling coldness turned into a solid substance, freezing life and freezing the world. Subtle changes appeared in Lu Cheng's body. Some of his muscles tightened or trembled. Some of his tendons and vessels expanded or contracted. The corresponding organs squirmed or rose and fell. Normally speaking, every movement of the human body, no matter how weak it was, would create waves that belonged to itself. However, they were too weak and would disappear in the blink of an eye. But at this moment, these waves were ingeniously stacked together, turning into an icy chill that even normal people could feel, spreading in all directions. The leisurely geyser Shur at the side suddenly froze. He looked over and whispered in astonishment, "You've succeeded in your visualization?" Lu Cheng's spirit had reached its limit. He couldn't hold it anymore and exited the state of unity. He opened his eyes and happily answered his master's question. "Yes, I've finally succeeded." "Finally?" Geyser Shur was stunned. He suddenly laughed and said, "Not bad. You have some of my demeanor back then." That's all for today. Don't try to force yourself to avoid hurting your brain. Okay, you can practice by yourself now. Master was so awesome back then. I couldn't beat him even with the help of Jean Dan. Lu Cheng's heart trembled. He put away the pride and satisfaction of finally succeeding in his visualization and started to run seriously. When he was far away, Giza She cursed in his heart. Damn it! I thought it was amazing enough that I succeeded in 1 month of visualization. Could it be that the Longhu Immortal's relic he got helped him understand the frost concept? But there's no precedent for this. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.